Good morning and welcome to today's New York City Council hearing for the Committee on Public Safety. At this time, we ask that you please silence all electronic devices, and at no time is anyone to approach the dais. If you have any questions throughout the hearing or would like to sign up for in-person testimony, please see one of the Sergeant-at-Arms. Chair Salam, we're ready to begin.
Good morning. I'm Councilmember Yusuf Salam, Chair of the Committee on Public Safety. I want to welcome everyone to today's hearing on the NYPD's parking and traffic enforcement efforts and related legislation. I'm joined today by members of the committee, Councilmember Marte, Councilmember Holden, Councilmember Joseph, Councilmember Caban, and Councilmember Osei on Zoom. Today we will examine how the NYPD is enforcing parking and traffic laws and addressing public concerns about safety, fairness, and accountability. From reckless driving, driving while intoxicated and impaired, accidents involving serious and fatal injury, to the proliferation of ghost cars. This hearing comes as many New Yorkers question both the effectiveness and fairness of the NYPD's enforcement efforts. In 2024, we saw 274 traffic-related deaths, including 118 pedestrian fatalities and nearly 100 involving e-bikes, mopeds, and other micromobility devices, serving as stark reminders of the seriousness of ensuring proper traffic enforcement to maintain safety on city streets for all New Yorkers and to minimize the occurrence of serious and deadly traffic accidents. I think we all agree that we want the NYPD to enforce our parking and traffic laws in a fair and consistent manner. And we look forward to examining relevant statistics to see whether the department is succeeding or falling short. We intend to explore what can be done to address racial disparities in enforcement. According to the NYPD's Vehicle Stop Report, in 2004, over 85% of vehicle searches conducted by NYPD involved Black and Hispanic individuals. These disparities have continued even as enforcement has declined in various categories. So while some call for more traffic enforcement in the interest of safety, others ask whether the enforcement that remains is being applied equitably. We also expect to hear how the NYPD is addressing challenges relating to ghost cars, illegal plates, and enforcement of laws related to micromobility devices, issues that are increasingly shaping the flow of traffic in New York City. In addition to today's oversight discussion, we are also considering a number of legislative items. Introduction number 179, sponsored by Councilmember Felice, would require the NYPD to maintain adequate tow pound capacity to meet enforcement needs and publish annual reports on towing activity disaggregated by precinct. Introduction number 1252, also sponsored by Councilmember Felice, which would mandate NYPD verification of license plates and vehicle identification numbers for vehicles with temporary or suspicious plates, alongside quarterly public reporting on violations, immobilizations, and tolls. Resolution number 853, which I've sponsored, calling on the state to amend the vehicle and traffic law to allow vehicle identification numbers to be listed on notice of violation when license plates are missing, obscured, or tampered with. Resolution number 854, sponsored by myself, in support of Senate Bill 7621 and Assembly Bill 7979, which will require intelligent speed assistant technology in vehicles driven by repeat traffic violators. This hearing is an opportunity to examine how enforcement prioritizes traffic and parking enforcement, how priorities have changed in recent years, and the department's vision is for safer, more just traffic enforcement system going forward. I thank everyone here today for participating in this important conversation, and I look forward to a thoughtful and robust discussion. I now turn to council to administer the oath.
Thank you, Chair. Today for NYPD, we'll be hearing from Josh Levin, the Director of Legislative Affairs, Inspector Brian O'Sullivan, and Chief Lola Obey. Can you please just raise your right hand and affirm the following, that you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and to answer honestly to council member questions? Seeing you all nod your heads and yes, you may go ahead. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Salam, members of the council. My name is Josh Levin, and I am the Director of the Legislative Affairs for the New York City Police Department. I'm joined today by Chief of Transportation Lola Obey and Inspector Brian O'Sullivan, also from the Transportation Bureau. On behalf of Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch, we thank you for the opportunity to speak about the work that the department is doing every day to ensure the safety of millions of people moving about the city and to improve their quality of life. Now, central to this mission is traffic enforcement. The department's traffic enforcement agents, or TEAs, write approximately 8 million summonses a year. The deployment of TEAs and their enforcement activity is data-driven, with the goal of both preventing traffic accidents and addressing the violations that inconvenience and frustrate New Yorkers as they go about their daily lives. So, for example, our Vision Zero High Visibility Corridors initiative identifies, on a rolling basis, the traffic corridors with the highest concentrations of collisions, injuries, fatalities, and we surge traffic enforcement agents and other officers to conduct enforcement and provide a visible deterrent to those who might otherwise drive irresponsibly. This strategy is working. In those corridors, collisions year-to-date are down 16%, and collisions resulting in injury or death are down 11%. Now, more broadly, our traffic enforcement across the city is yielding tremendous dividends. There have been 51 traffic fatalities so far this year, compared to 76 at the same time last year, a 33% decrease. We also focus on particular types of traffic violations. Our bus lane task force deploys traffic enforcement agents and tow trucks to conduct enforcement against cars improperly using bus lanes. Last year, we issued 260,081 bus lane summonses, and year to date, we have issued an additional 68,142 summonses. 4,319 vehicles were towed from bus lanes last year, and 1,550 have been towed year to date. We also have taken aggressive enforcement action against cars parked in bike lanes, and in response to this recurring problem, we issued 61,125 summonses last year and 16,839 this year. And additionally, the department towed 221 vehicles from bike lanes in 2024 and an additional 56 so far this year. The key in all of this is to be responsive to what the people of the city of New York are telling us. And one particular concern, again and again, is the reckless and unlawful operation of mopeds, scooters, e-bikes, and other micromobility devices. And the department has formulated a new comprehensive plan to address this issue. Using data drawn from 301 complaints, DOT statistics, and our own traffic stat, we are deploying quality of life teams and citywide traffic task force personnel to those locations where misuse of the micromobility devices is most prevalent and at the times when violations are most likely to occur. Now, I want to take a moment to comment on the bills under consideration today. Intro 179 would require the department to operate our tow pounds with enough capacity to tow vehicles at a rate necessary to deter illegal conduct and to report on towing and tow pound capacity. The NYPD fully appreciates the significance of adequate tow capacity and of the need for increased tow facilities. Since the state budget compelled us to close our final Manhattan tow facility in 2021, we are determined to find appropriate facilities for a new Manhattan tow pound. It should come as no surprise that it is a challenge to find sufficient tow space on an island that constitutes one of the densest urban environments in the world. We intend to meet the challenge, and we hope to repurpose already existing department facilities in Manhattan to accommodate a tow facility. We look forward to working with Council on crafting a version of the bill that will best achieve our shared goals. Intro 1252 would require the department to confirm the validity of license plates and vehicle identification numbers of all vehicles summoned for a traffic or parking violation or bearing temporary plates. We appreciate that the intent of this bill is to improve traffic enforcement, and again, we share that intent. But the bill, as drafted, will have the opposite effect. When it comes to traffic enforcement across New York City, efficiency is crucial. Our TEAs will typically write a summons in under a minute. Forcing TEAs to check the validity of every plate when issuing a traffic or parking summons will dramatically slow down the summons process, resulting in an overall sharp reduction in enforcement. Moreover, the benefits of this approach are limited. Most vehicles we summons do not have fraudulent plates. In short, the bill, as written, would impose major costs that far outweigh the limited benefits. It's not even close on this one. So when it comes to improving enforcement against cars with fraudulent plates, the answer lies in the legislation contemplated in the Chair's resolution number 853, which will allow us to write summonses to the VIN. And the answer also lies in the targeted enforcement against cars with ghost plates and fraudulent plates that we can conduct and do conduct with our partners at the MTA and the Port Authority Police. In 2025 alone, these operations have resulted in 9,144 summonses, the seizure of 910 ghost vehicles, and arrests of 267 ghost car drivers. The answer does not lie in the bill as currently drafted, and we strongly oppose it. So thank you for the opportunity to speak to these critical issues, and now we look forward to answering any questions you have.
Thank you. I'd like to note for the record that we've been joined also by Councilmember Ressler. So I'm going to start my line of questioning with street safety. In recent years, pedestrians and bicyclists have faced increasing dangers when navigating city streets. Many factors likely contribute to the city's ongoing issues with street safety, including the proliferation of e-mobility devices and mopeds, but also increased occurrences of dangerous driving practices such as speeding or disobeying traffic signs. Can the department speak to any trends in traffic deaths and injuries that have occurred in recent years? Specifically, how do the current rate of traffic deaths and injuries compare to what the city experienced prior to the pandemic and prior to implementing the Vision Zero initiative?
Good morning. So I just wanted to speak to, just address one of the things you had mentioned about fairness, and also just speak into what we see, and then I'll touch on the fatalities. So foundationally for us at the Transportation Bureau for Traffic Stat, this is where we start, and this is where we are in 2025 as an organization. In February of 2024, working with our partners in the DOT, we identified, along with the DOT, 9 traffic corridors in 33 precincts. The identification at that time was based on a look-back window of 4 years of KSI. KSI being killed, these are corridors where people were killed or severely injured. In 2025, January 2025, we maintained the same 9 corridors and added 6 additional for a total of 15 citywide corridors. This time, these 15 corridors run along 50 of our 78 patrol precincts, with an addition of 17 patrol precincts to the original 33 identified in 2024. For precincts that are outside of these identified corridors, their task is clear. Identify high visibility corridors with the highest KSIs, again, where people are killed or seriously injured. And that's where there's 3 E's. We emphasize 3 E's during traffic stat, or just in our business, it's all about the 3 E's. And the 3 E's are education, enforcement, and engineering, partnering with the DOT. I believe that these corridors and the results on these corridors have been very promising. In 2024 alone, along nine citywide corridors, collisions were down. Total collisions down 12%, total injuries down 16%. We were down 7 fatalities in 2024, again, along these 9 corridors. Enforcement was up. Total movers along those 9 corridors were up about 88%. Vision Zero movers that we focus on were up along those 9 corridors. Same thing that we see in 2025. 2025 year-to-date, 1/1 through 4/20, along 15 citywide corridors. Total collisions are down. Total injuries are down. Fatalities, unfortunately, 8 versus 3 are up by 5. And I just want to reference something we've seen in the media in the confines of the 6-1 precinct in Brooklyn South. And this collision happened on Saturday, March 29th, where a woman and her 3 kids crossing the street were killed by a speeding driver on Ocean Parkway. One of the 15 identified corridors, mom and 2 kids were killed, leaving a 3rd child in critical condition. These are the types of drivers that we target when we focus on Vision Zero enforcement, such as speeding, which is what we see, and fail to yield enforcement along those corridors. So I just wanted to just touch on that. That's what we speak to foundationally. For fatalities in general, when you look at 2025, what we see so far, total fatalities 52 versus 79. We are down in pedestrians, but see a spike in this category. I'll speak to that very quickly. Traditional bike fatalities are down. Motorized two-wheel scooter fatalities are down 8 versus 17. Motor vehicle occupants are down 11 versus 24. Highway fatalities are down 8 versus 14. Truck-related fatalities are even 12 versus 12. What's troubling to us and what we see right now is pedestrian fatalities. And I'll give you just a quick snapshot. This year alone, again, 1/1 through 4/20, we have 32 versus 36 fatalities in this year to date. We're down by 4, but so 32 of the 36, so 32 pedestrian fatalities versus 36 total. That accounts for about 61% of our fatalities. What we see mostly is 30 versus 33. That's on street levels, outside crosswalks. 9 versus 7 on highways. 2 versus 2. The worst times that we see is during the day shift with about 14. The worst day is Friday with 10. The worst boroughs, Brooklyn with 12. And the types of vehicles, truck/bus, we have 9 e-bike, 1 motor vehicle. We have 22 with 1 leaving the scene. Contributing factors, and this is where we focus our summonses, for the most part is driven by failure to yield to pedestrian and also by speeding. What we see that's troubling is an uptick in our senior fatalities. We say seniors, older adult pedestrian fatalities. Those are people who are 60 or older, and we have 14 versus 12. In that category, we're up by 2. So age group, again, from 60 to about 95, and locations where there's pedestrians are struck, mostly, again, intersections, mid-block, and we had 1 on the highway. What is the plan? So we know that 2 contributing factors drive fatalities, and that's, again, speeding and fail to yield. Speed enforcement, to match that, is up 20%. Year-to-date, we have 34,306 versus 28,646 from last year. And some of the criticism that we get is, the police department, we're reactive to when things happen. What I just mentioned about Ocean Parkway. One of the things we do is we stay there because it is one of our 15 corridors, and one of the things we've done so far is to have an initiative on Ocean Parkway. So since 3/31 through 4/25, we've written on that corridor alone 3,972 parking summonses, 3,272 moving summonses, and again, focusing on the right types of summonses. We have 740 for speeding, 62 for fail to yield, 136 for red lights, 76 vehicles were towed, 7 C summonses were issued, mostly for reckless driving and operating motorized scooters, and 3 others. 17 arrests, of which 5 were DWI, 9 vehicles were seized, and 37 truck summonses were issued just for that initiative for Ocean Parkway. But overall, for fail to yield summonses, again, because we see that this is a contributing factor for our pedestrians, we're up 14,302 failed to yield summonses versus 11,326 from last year. We also focused and have trained our officers on write out summonses, and that's Admin Code 19-190, and that's for failing to yield right away. Year to date, we have 1071 summonses that have been issued and 2 arrests made. Hazardous violations are up 10%. Vision Zero movers are up 17%. Moving violations are up 5.3%. DUI arrests is also up 18%, 1225 versus 1042. VTL 511 arrests for suspended licenses up 24%, 9237 versus 7453. So it's not just all about enforcement, we also focus on education too. And when I say education, I'm gonna highlight one particular precinct in Queens, the 109 precinct. We are data-driven, we have our traffic stats, and I'll speak to that a little as to what we do. When we see stats like that, where we see a spike in pedestrian injuries, specifically in the senior community, right away we partner with our uniformed members of the service in the Community Affairs Bureau, and just have somewhat of an initiative in that on certain identified corridors. So year to date in the 109 precinct, for instance, this is exactly what the types of things that we saw. Year to date, there were 113 versus 103 pedestrian injuries. 36 of the 113 were for pedestrians, and those were mostly seniors, and we saw the same type of pattern in 2024. So we tasked the command, our partners, that's the engineering requirement with the DOT, to conduct massive and consistent education outreach throughout that community, also tapping into the Community Affairs Bureau, as well as our local precinct, and follow up with enforcing traffic summonses along those corridors to change driver behavior. Special thanks to the Community Affairs Bureau again for coordinating the outreach work in the 109 precinct. We identified for that initiative, so a lot of initiatives around the city where we see some type of spike, and this is how we respond. So 3 problematic intersections were identified. The outreach work was done over 3 days, and a lot of it just concluded with traffic safety overview, discussions on crossing safety, Vision Zero flyers in English and Korean. We also gave out pens, jacket reflectors, whistles, and reflection tapes were also distributed. My point here is that the focus is not just on enforcement, like I mentioned, but just one of the 3 E's, but also on education. And in this case, we really wanted to keep our seniors safe. The engineering component is our officers have to prepare traffic intel reports. So far, we have about 570 year to date, and these traffic intel reports are given to the DOT, and it's a combination of enforcement type of recommendations, roadway designs, or roadway hazard. So just very, very quickly, this is just foundational for us.
Thank you. How does the department respond to concerns regarding what many perceive as an increased disregard for traffic rules shown by cars, e-bikes, mopeds, and bicycles alike?
So just want to make sure I'm understanding the question correctly. The question is, what is the department's feelings about the public's perception of what's going on with micromobility vehicles, or what are we doing, or what?
Yeah, it's really all of it, not just the public concerns, but what's happening, as we see the disregard for traffic rules shown by cars, e-bikes, mopeds, and bicycles.
Yeah, certainly. So there are so many factors that go into something like New York City that we're constantly trying to keep our eyes on, but we are seeing stuff like the belief of lawlessness and people disobeying traffic signal indicators. That has knock-on dangerous effects, both for the person doing the driving as well as the pedestrians who are trying to walk around, right, like we saw on Ocean Parkway. And so this police department is committed to addressing those things that are inconveniencing and or putting people's lives at harm. This police commissioner, as you know, is very dedicated to addressing quality of life issues. And so the quality of life teams are addressing some of those things, right? Noise complaints, e-bikes, mopeds, et cetera. That is on top of the work that our Transportation Bureau already does, targeted in these specific corridors. And by the way, specifically in regards to the public, these things are, again, data-driven. So where, if you look at like a heat map of New York City, right, you can see where the things are happening based off 311 complaints, and that's where we respond to. And so we hear these things. The police commissioner is certainly aware of these things, and I think, how committed this police commissioner is to increasing the quality of life for everyday New Yorkers.
What is the current strategy for addressing safety concerns that relate to the dangerous use of micromobility devices such as e-bikes and scooters. Are there precincts also where collisions or fatalities involving two-wheel vehicles are particularly concentrated? And if so, what is being done to address the issue in those locations?
So I'm going to take the first part of that question, like what are we doing? I think it's a two-pronged approach, right? There's education and there's enforcement. We're not just stopping and summoning people, right? Although that is a component of it, because sometimes people just only respond to a fine, right, before it gets through to them. But we're also doing affirmative educational outreach. And so, we have this palm card flyer the chief mentioned. It's in all the different languages, and we handed out over 70,000 of them to e-bike and micromobility operators in a specific corridor. Because if somebody on an e-bike is driving recklessly, it's a danger to themselves, let alone every other pedestrian. And so the goal isn't necessarily enforcement, the goal is compliance. Sometimes you do that with education, and we've done that, right? But we also goes hand in hand with enforcement to make sure that people actually are complying with these regulations.
Thank you. Actually, I was wondering if the palm cards that you're talking about would also be something that council members can also get access to, so that we can share that information also in our districts, because we see things and we're very concerned about these types of things, as well as the people that we serve.
We definitely will.
So I want to move on to traffic enforcement. Unfortunately, the data appears to show that NYPD traffic enforcement, a key pillar in ensuring safer streets, decreased significantly during the COVID-19 pandemic. In the years prior to the pandemic, the NYPD averaged more than 900,000 summonses for hazardous moving violations. Last fiscal year, the NYPD issued only 496,000 of such summonses, a slight increase from the prior year, but still well below the pre-pandemic levels. How does the NYPD explain the decrease in traffic enforcement that has occurred in recent years? And have there been specific changes to the department's policy that have led to this result?
Okay, so I don't see a decrease. I just want to touch really quickly on the hard work that our agents and officers do daily. I can assure you that everyone's plugged in with the 3 E's I mentioned earlier that we emphasize during traffic safety. And again, education, and enforcement, and engineering. We work closely with the DOT as our primary partner, and conduct other operations with multiple agencies. When we get to Ghost Plate operations, we'll talk about. The enforcement is there. Traffic agents primarily write parking summonses and manage tow operations, and our uniform officers write parking and moving violation summonses. So with traffic agents, currently we have about 2,000 traffic agents citywide. They write about 8 million summonses, parking summonses per year. That's approximately about 4,000 summonses per agent per year. So speaking to pre-pandemic numbers, I just want to touch on the fact that they're actually currently at capacity for the number of agents that we have. So in 2020, for instance, we had 1,853 agents. They wrote 7+ million summonses that amounted to about 18.4 summonses per tour. 2021, again, 1,793 agents. They wrote about 22.3 summonses per tour. 2022, less with 1,533, 24.4 summonses per tour. 23, 1,379, 26.3. 2024, we had 1,339 agents, and they wrote 26.7 summonses per tour. In 2025, we currently have 1,337 agents, and they wrote about 26.9 summonses per tour. Now, these are just level 2. These are TEA level 2s, not just all of the TEA agents. So I don't see the decrease. I think that we're actually doing more with less. I also wanted to mention our officers. They're also plugged in terms of the moving summonses that they're moving violations that they write. But again, when you look at I mentioned the results along the 5 corridors. Enforcement just total movers we have 51,000, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna. Total movers are up. Total vision, 0 movers are up. Moving summonses that we're concerned about that actually causes accidents are up. Speeding summonses, red lights, cell phones, and total vision 0 summonses are also up.
I think it's about more with less, right? The percentages what they're writing is going up, as the chief mentioned, with less people. And we're also targeting it in specific locations, right? And so, for example, the moving summonses for e-bike enforcement, 4,558 versus 1,480 over last year. So that's like a 208% increase, right? So we're targeting it. So maybe it's a less overall number, but we're being more efficient and putting it in the places in these traffic corridors that we've identified.
Similarly glaring is the decrease in arrests for driving while intoxicated. Prior to the pandemic, the city averaged nearly 7,000 DWI arrests each year, a figure that decreased to fewer than 3,000 DWI arrests in fiscal year 2022, and has since increased slightly to around 3,500 such arrests in fiscal year 24. It also must be noted that DWI fatalities tripled between fiscal year 23 and fiscal year 24, increasing from 11 deaths to 34 deaths. Does the NYPD believe that there is a connection between the decrease in DWI arrests and the recent spike in DWI fatalities? And if not, what explains both of these trends?
Good morning, Chair. So for our DWI, driving while intoxicated arrests, we're up 2%, as you said, 3568 versus 3477. We're dedicated to go out there. We have our patrol officers, our highway officers, our citywide traffic task force. It comes up at traffic stat. We're definitely focusing, and there has been an increase with the DWI arrests. We're going to be out there focusing on it, and hopefully this year we'll have a better year.
Does the department have a strategy for decreasing the occurrence of driving under the influence?
The strategies, that's the messaging to our officers?
Yes.
If you could just clarify that?
Well, strategy to, I guess not necessarily just the officers, but with regards to the people as well. I mean, I know we have the Palm card to assist in making sure that we have a safer streets in New York City. We're just wondering what the strategy would be around decreasing, the occurrence of people driving under the influence.
So I think a lot of different factors come into play in this. Like, one of the good ones is the prevalence with rideshare, like Uber, et cetera. I think hopefully you see a decrease as a result of that. But in regards to our specific enforcement, again, we have the data, we follow the data, we set up checkpoints. One reason why we can't rely on cameras to do everything for us is because you need a human in the loop for a lot of this stuff. A camera is never going to know if a person is driving drunk. But when we conduct an actual car stop on the Bell Parkway or something, the officer can then make a determination if this person is intoxicated and possibly save that driver's life or other people's lives. I don't think anything has really changed in the avenue of DWI enforcement in the last recent years. It's still basically, I think, the same pattern. In regards to the specific stats you asked about, I just feel there's a lot of factors that come into play, so I just wouldn't feel comfortable commenting on why that decrease may have happened for that one specific year.
According to the mayor's management report, the NYPD's Chief of Transportation collaborates with precinct executive officers to evaluate traffic patterns and enforce strategies at weekly traffic stat meetings. How does the NYPD use traffic stat meetings to assist and respond to emerging collision patterns? And how often does the NYPD revise its enforcement strategy based on real-time or monthly traffic injury data?
So we do conduct extensive quantitative analysis of traffic enforcement through Traffic Stat, like you mentioned. So Traffic Stat is a weekly data-driven session modeled very closely after CompStat that everyone's very familiar with. These sessions bring together NYPD executives, precinct leadership, and agencies such as TLC, the DOT, in one room, ensuring that all partners are working in coordination to address, again, the 3 E's. At the local precinct and patrol borough levels, we have our borough executives and precinct XOs expected to conduct ongoing reviews of summons activity, collision trends, and fatalities to inform local deployment strategies. These analyses support real-time decision-making and long-term planning. So for instance, I talked about the 15 corridors, we're ultra-focused on that. For commands that fall, again, outside of that, they have to designate locations that where they have their worst or their highest KSIs. So with Traffic Stat, we look at, our reviews are typically done over a 28-day or 56-day review and also year-to-date review, as well as anything that's historic over that time. And these reviews really identify shifts in collision patterns. They help us with enforcement strategies and also support seasonal adjustments in deployment. We know in the colder weathers, for the most part, we have certain trends, and as opposed to the warm weather. So borough-level traffic teams also use these intervals to assess precinct-level performance and drive follow-up. So that's what I would say about Traffic Stat.
Thank you. I'd like to mention that we also, for the record, have been joined by Councilmember Ayala. To what extent does the NYPD identify areas in the city for targeted traffic enforcement due to elevated traffic safety dangers in such area? And also, what data or analysis does the NYPD use to inform resource allocation, for targeted enforcement and evaluate impact of enforcement?
So I think, if I understand your question, we touched on this with Ocean Parkway, where we see a certain spike. We have a certain initiative there. When we see trends in seniors, for instance, senior pedestrians being killed or injured, we'll focus our enforcement there. So there's that constant shift around the city and just drawing resources towards a particular problem.
Has this, I know you mentioned this specific area, and I'm wondering, has this led to safer street conditions?
We do follow up. I would say that it certainly has. Our goal, say for instance with Ocean Parkway and some of the other areas that we hit, is to change driver behavior. When I see a motor vehicle out there, a police vehicle, for the most part people will slow down.
I'd like to mention that we've been joined also by Councilmember Rivera. How long does the benefit of increased enforcement last?
I don't know that I have an answer to that, but we do our weekly reviews during Traffic Stat and attack problems as we see it during, with the different boroughs. But I don't know that there is one answer to that, one method to that, but it is a multi-pronged approach.
As traffic cameras and other means of automated traffic enforcement become more viable with advanced technology, how does the NYPD anticipate expanding its use of technology to conduct traffic enforcement?
So when you talk about speed cameras, that really lives with DOT. But what I will say is this, I kind of touched on this earlier, happy to leverage technology in a way that makes the street safer, 100%, right? But I still think you need a human in the loop. You'll never be able to take a human out of the loop on this stuff for 3 reasons, right? Interdiction, identification, and education, right? Identification, because if you have an obscured plate, the machine's never gonna pick that up. You need a human being to be able to do that, right? So that's identification. Interdiction, because you're not gonna know if that driver is unlicensed or is DWI, and you can have DWI. You can have a little human being as a police officer make that arrest. A camera is never gonna be able to do that. And the third thing is education, all right? Cops have discretion. When they make a vehicle stop, if the person's like, I'm so sorry, I'm just racing home to get to my daughter's recital or whatever, you can give a verbal warning. because we're all human beings and we understand this happens to people. But it's also literally a chance to have a face-to-face conversation with the driver. And you can explain to the driver, on this corner last week, we had a fatality. We had a DWI. We are out here looking for them. So that's why I pulled you over, but I got to remind you to be safe, drive within this, et cetera, et cetera. You don't want to see that happen to your daughter, et cetera, et cetera. So always happy to leverage technology, but still think you need a human in the loop.
This may have been answered, but are there certain types of dangerous driving practices or other traffic violations that would be well suited for automated enforcement using cameras or evolving technologies? And how could this reduce the need for officer-initiated traffic stops?
I think I'm going to defer back to what I said earlier. I still think you need a human being, right? Especially if someone's recklessly driving. What's a camera going to do if they're weaving in between lanes at 4 o'clock p.m. when everyone's getting out of school and stuff, right? But again, always interested to leverage whatever we can, but I think you need the human in the loop for those reasons.
I want to move to traffic stops. Local law requires the NYPD to publish detailed information on traffic stops occurring in the city, including the demographics of people stopped and outcomes of stops. The data shows persistent racial disparities that exist across the board in terms of police action related to vehicle stops, most notably with Black and Hispanic drivers disproportionately represented in all vehicle searches, arrests, and use of force incidents. Notably, white drivers account for 21% of all vehicle stops, but are only subject to around 5% of all searches, arrests, and use of force, whereas Black and Hispanic drivers account for around 50% of vehicle stops, but nearly 90% of all arrests, searches, and use of force incidents. How does the NYPD account for racial disparities in traffic enforcement? Specifically, what explains the relatively low rate at which white drivers have their vehicles searched or are subject to arrest or use of force following traffic stops?
So I think there's two major responses to this, right? I think one is in the aggregate and one is like in the individual. In the aggregate, like we've mentioned earlier, we are going to target specific corridors where we are seeing 311 and traffic issues. Those specific corridors run through the city. So I'll give you an example. Atlantic Avenue, it touches the 8-4 precinct, it touches the 7-5 precinct. Because the data is telling us this is where certain crimes are happening, we are going to have more officers in those specific areas. So for example, the 7-5 has different amount of police officers than the 8-4 because it has to be responsive to the crime that is happening there, okay? And this stuff is objective. It's like from 911 calls, okay? That's not us, right? It's the public telling us this. And so as a result, any time that you have more police officers in a certain area, as a result, you are going to see more enforcement. You are going to see more car stops. You are going to see more searches. That's a fact. That's what I would say in the aggregate. Okay, in the individual, I just want to make it very clear that there are mechanisms for if there is any accusation of racial or bias-based policing, there are mechanisms by which citizens can and should address that. You can make a report to CCRB. The times have changed. Drivers are filming police officers as the officers are interacting with them. At the same time, officers have their body-worn cameras on. This stuff is being documented. There is paperwork. Officers have body-worn camera on. Not only can a complaint be made to CCRB, but also there are civil issues if an officer makes an improper or illegal stop to be sued, and whatever criminal case may come from, you're going to have a judge at a hearing reviewing all the evidence, all the body worn, any cameras, paperwork, the way the person was acting, for there to be a determination of did this officer really have that level of suspicion under the DeBoer factors. There are mechanisms in place to view and review these things. So I think it's a two-pronged approach to that type of question.
What are the most common offenses that lead to arrests following a traffic stop? And are there racial neutral explanations for why there's this racial disparity in enforcement, that this disparity in enforcement might exist for those specific offenses?
I think that, let me take the second part first. I think the answer I gave before explains when you see more police officers, you're going to see more enforcement, right? That's that. But I looked at quarter 4 for our vehicle stop report, and one of the tabs is arrests that stemmed from a vehicle stop. There are 8,215 individual arrests that stemmed from vehicle stops in the fourth quarter of 2024. I went through that. I isolated the top 17 most recurring arrest charges that stemmed from those 8,200 stops. These are ones that had 101 or more instances of arrest, okay? The number one one, by the way, the number one was vehicle driving related, motorist related, vehicle safety related, aggravated unlicensed operation of a motor vehicle in the 3rd degree. That was 1,700, okay? The top 5 are all vehicle traffic law. Some are in the penal law, but they're all about driving. So you've got unlicensed operation 3rd degree, possession of a forged instrument in the 3rd degree. I'm extrapolating a little bit. My guess is that's a fraudulent plate or a fraudulent driver's license. Okay? You've got unlicensed aggravated operation of a vehicle in the 1st and the 2nd degree, and then rounding out the top 5, possession of a forged instrument in the 2nd degree. So those are the top 5 or so of the 17 most recurring ones. And so if you go down the rest of the 17 of them, you'll see that the vast majority of them are VTL misdemeanor or VTL felony related. 40% or more. You're talking at 3,200 of the 8,000 arrests were VTL stuff. Unlicensed operation, license plate covered, DW, actually that 3,200 doesn't even include DWIs. All right, I just pulled the top 17. So that's what you're seeing in a breakdown. It's a lot of VTL stuff, and which is what we know leads to fatalities and concerns.
Apart from the Highway Division and regular patrol officers, what other command units or special teams engage in traffic enforcement?
So there's patrol, there's the Transportation Bureau, and there are, I think the big 3 are the Quality of Life teams, which I believe turn out under Patrol Services Bureau. I could be wrong, I'll double check that. But I think those are the 3 major entities that you were seeing doing this enforcement.
And what percentage of all stops, searches, and arrests are conducted by specialty units such as the CRT or neighborhood safety teams?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
What percentage of vehicle stops result in retrieval of illegal firearms?
Okay, so I looked at quarter 4, 2024 again when I was doing this data review. Of the 8,200, I mentioned there were 8,200 individual arrests, right? Of the 8,200 arrests, 585 of them were CPF, criminal possession of a weapon related. So the biggest one was criminal possession of a weapon in the 2nd degree, with the subsection being loaded firearm. That was 215 of the 585, okay? So, but just aggregate number, 585 out of 8,215 is 7.1%, approximately 7.1%.
You can ask him what percentage of those are the 265 of the missing.
Is there a percentage of those that are misdemeanor?
So I didn't write down whether each one was misdemeanor or felony. I believe criminal possession of a weapon in the 4th degree, like piercing ammunition, could be a misdemeanor. I can follow up.
Like knives or stuff like that?
There are some CPW 4s, but it's not broken down by, the subsection says firearm, a throwing star, there's a bunch lumped in there, so we don't have it broken down by that. Firearm is included as one of those ones in CPW.
So it's not really an accurate reflection of
What guidance or policies exist regarding when an individual subject to arrest following a traffic stop should receive a desk appearance ticket as compared to being detained and arraigned in criminal court?
I didn't bring it with me. I can follow up with you. There are very specific criteria by when a DAT can and should be issued. It's not dictated by whatever form is being used, it's being dictated by department policy. There are certain factors that disqualify you from getting a DAT. I used to have them all. I can definitely follow up with you, okay?
Yep, I definitely would like to see that. And also, if you can follow up, can you add the racial breakdown of the individuals who receive these DATs versus those who are detained and arraigned? I'm going to pass it to council members for questions, starting with Councilmember Caban.
Thank you. I just also want to acknowledge Families for Safe Streets. I know that there are family members here that have experienced a lot of pain and loss, and it's not easy to come here and advocate, so thank you for being here. I want to start a little bit by talking about data, although I might as well already sign up for a second round. And I'm going to be referring to the newly released data report by NICLU, the NYPD vehicle stops data. But I just want to start with this. And I'm going to ask you to keep your answers as succinct as possible. I might interrupt you. I have a lot of questions. Why are Black and Latina drivers stopped so much more often than their share of drivers?
What do you mean by their share of drivers?
So, for example, Black and Latina drivers represent approximately 22% and 23% of the driving population, respectively. But they account for 32 and 30% of the traffic stops. So why are Black and Latina drivers stopped so much more often than white drivers?
Where's that percentage coming from?
From the report.
The NICLU report?
Yes.
Do you know where it comes from NICLU, though? It comes from a survey of commuters coming into the city. And so, between you and me, I'm not sure that's the best benchmark by which to be...
So you're saying that it's not true that Black and brown drivers are stopped more often than white drivers?
Not what I said. What I said is I'm just hesitant to say there is a number who should be stopped based off a survey of who is commuting...
Okay, so
the
my
city.
question for you is, why are Black and Latina drivers, putting the numbers aside, why are Black and Latina drivers stopped more often than white drivers?
I think it comes down to where we see the deployment of resources, like I explained earlier. When you have more police officers in a certain area because you're responding to specific crimes, you're going to see more enforcement.
So, racial bias?
No, the department is not a racist, council member.
I think that the data says otherwise, council. I'm going to ask my next question. The same report found that NYPD searched 83% more vehicles in 2024 than 2023. Can you explain the really large increase in vehicle searches?
So I think it all depends on the conditions that the officers are seeing, and it depends on what the prevalent crimes that are being committed. We see surges of certain crimes. So no, I think it depends on a lot of different factors that are even micro-community related.
So you can't explain an 83% increase over a year span in searches. You can't say with any particularity any things that contribute to that massive increase.
I mean, other than our mission is constantly to respond to the crime trends that we are seeing so we can maintain lawfulness in the city. And so as those things push and pull, we respond to them.
And obviously, as you said before, when it comes to stops, cops have discretion, right? You testified, cops have discretion. What to do
I'm not
after a
fighting
stop.
you. I'm just trying to
No,
make
that's
sure
a
I
yes or
understand.
no question. You
Do
testified
police
that
officers
when
have
a stop gets
discretion?
made, cops have discretion.
Like in writing a summons or giving someone a verbal warning? Yes.
What to be done after a stop? Cops have discretion, correct? That's what you testified. You testified cops have discretion. It's really easy. I mean, we can roll back, we're going to move on because we can just play the tape later. So with that discretion, we've seen also, again, an 83% increase in searches. Why are Black and Latina drivers treated so much differently after they're stopped? And I'm asking specifically about searches. Why are Black and Latina drivers treated differently when it comes to a vehicle search?
I think it goes back to the individual. It all depends on what that actual specific officer is seeing in those specific circumstances and the specific crime trends that they're responding to.
So are you saying that black drivers much more often than white drivers after being stopped are exhibiting the necessary information, evidence to allow for a legal search of the vehicle?
I think there are so many factors that go into whether a search is done. I'm not comfortable saying writ large something like that. What I am saying is that officers have to find a particularized suspicion in order to search a vehicle or even ask for consent to search a vehicle.
And do you think that black folks are committing crimes at higher rates than white folks?
Of course not. But what we are seeing is specific
Okay, so
data
then why are
that
black
makes us
drivers searched at a
respond.
rate roughly 10 times greater than the rate that white drivers are? And Latina drivers are being searched at a rate roughly 6 times greater. Why is there that disparity?
I think it goes back to what I said before, but I think another important thing to keep in mind is that plus 50%, 56 to 61% of these searches are consent searches.
Yeah, because black and brown drivers are afraid they're going to get killed by the police. I was, may I have just a few more moments? I was a public defender in the court system for nearly a decade. I'm also a brown person who has a brother, an uncle, a father. You better believe that when you have a uniformed officer with however they're approaching the vehicle and a gun on their waistband, that you do not think sometimes that search is voluntary. So that's a bunch of BS.
Well, this stuff is all recorded
I don't know if
on.
you want me to wait for the second round. Thank
Just
you.
for the record, council member, this stuff is all recorded on body-worn camera. We have
And we
people
don't always
film-
get those. They're not always on. We take weeks and weeks. Oftentimes, we only get that body camera footage if somebody gets seriously hurt.
There's paperwork that is filled out in connection with a consent
And
search.
you have not answered the fundamental question of why black and brown drivers are getting stopped more, getting searched more, getting arrested more than white drivers when they represent a smaller amount of the population of drivers at large. Yet you want to say that there is no racial bias involved, and the data says otherwise.
And I'm sure you're also aware of the Right to Know Act, so officers have to voluntarily explain what the purpose of the search and the consent search is and get affirmative consent from the person.
And I'm a
So-
criminal defense lawyer, and I know that that doesn't always happen.
And so for all of those reasons, I feel like it's important perspective when you're talking about searches in this context.
We'll come back for a second round. We're going to move to Councilmember Holden.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you all for your testimony. And I want to congratulate Inspector O'Sullivan. Again, a bang-up job you did in Queens and in surrounding areas, and you were our go-to guy, and I congratulate you on your promotion. Hopefully to chief, but that's another story. Let me just bring up a couple of, now on the e-bikes, the chair mentioned the fact that e-bikes, and we all know if you walk around New York City or drive around or do anything in New York City, there's a ridiculous amount of the percentage of e-bikes and e-mobility vehicles that are running red lights, and especially dangerous in the crosswalks. That's why most pedestrians are struck by vehicles of all kinds in the crosswalks. You agree with that? Tell me, how could we better, other than the education that you mentioned, how do we enforce red light running on an e-bike if you can't identify them and if the person has no identification on them, if you do stop them? How does that work?
So just very quickly, I just want to prioritize, just mention some of the worst VTL violations that we prioritize. So 6 of them, which is reckless driving, operating under influence of alcohol or drugs, wrong-way driving, disobey red light, and failure to stop at stop sign. So I just also want to just mention that we currently have a plan that's been rolled out as it pertains to e-bikes. The focus is on a certain number of corridors which we've identified, working closely with our counterparts. And to your point, Brian, can we just speak about how we identify? The identification process you're concerned about when most of these riders don't have identification on them.
Right. What do we do?
So with this e-bike plan, we identified these corridors citywide, which have high complaints of e-bike and micro-mobility areas. So as you spoke earlier, a lot of these people riding e-bikes, they don't have a driver's license. And we did a big campaign since October, and we handed out over 80,000 flyers for the education part. But there's more to education. So right now, during this rollout of this new enforcement, is we have concurrent jurisdiction from the VTLB summonses to the criminal court summons. And with these 6 violations we identified, we're going to utilize the criminal court summons instead of the B summons. And it doesn't matter if you have a license or not. So if you're out there and you're operating this recklessly, you'll be issued the criminal court summons.
If they have no ID?
So then we'll, run their name, make sure that they don't have a warrant, and they'll be issued a summons. If they have a warrant, then
Yeah, but how do you know that they're John Smith? Let's say my name's John Smith. How do we know if they don't have ID? You're just taking their word that his name is John Smith who was stopped.
Well, we utilize technology. We could run the name, call someone that they know to bring over their identification.
Yeah, I know, but wouldn't it be better if the e-bike was registered to a person? There's an ID on it. There's a license plate. They can be also caught by cameras if there was a license plate. Would that be better?
The registration portion of it is difficult because e-bikes are not considered to be vehicles. So I think that's a logical conversation.
No, but my question is, if they were registered, some municipalities do register them, because then there's accountability. If somebody runs a red light, they could be caught by a red light camera, or if they are stopped by a police officer, they could be issued a summons based on their registration of the vehicle. So would that work? Would that work better for the police department?
It's something we'll consider. We'll go back and take a look at it.
Right. All right, on the, I have 33 more seconds left, but on the corridors that you mentioned, could we get the location of the corridors that you don't have to say, give it to us now, but after the hearing, could we identify those corridors? And then my backup question on this, many pedestrians are being struck by trucks that are essentially illegal in New York City, 53-footers. They seem to be, we're looking the other way, because now I see most tractor trailers are in that variety that are illegal to operate on the streets of the city of New York. Even they need a special permit even to go through. Yet, in speaking to the leadership in the NYPD, it's something like we're just we don't have the staffing level to enforce this. Could you tell us how many 53-foot illegal operations were issued in fiscal year '24 for 53-foot trucks?
Good morning, or good afternoon. So for the last few years, there's been a huge uptick in the commercial truck industry, especially the larger trucks that you mentioned. The department has focused a lot on, once again, education and enforcement. Queens alone, Southeast Queens, we've done numerous large-scale towing operations to tow these trucks. There's other hot spots in Brooklyn South and in the Bronx. And we did have a task force over the last year or two where we worked with EDC, DOT, and they just rolled out a new pilot program, excuse me, where there's new locations for these larger vehicles to park, and it won't inhibit the residential parking area. So going forward, it's going to be about education, it's going to be about towing more, and once again, these vehicles are very big, so tow space is very critical. We also have some new technology with the Barnacle we've been using in these areas, and our Code 6 and Code 78 for the overnight truck parking violations, extra enforcement, especially overnight.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We'll now move to Councilmember Joseph.
Thank you, Chair. Just as my colleague mentioned, is it possible you can share the corridors that you mentioned, the 15 corridors and the precincts with this committee, so we can see where they are? And on Ocean Parkway, how far are you going in that visibility? Because I also share Ocean Parkway in my district. Just want to know how far that part is going. in terms of enforcement, and because that whole corridor, that whole Ocean Parkway right by the circle is also very dangerous. And I think it also contributes because of street design. So I don't know if you ever look at the way the street is designed, it also creates a safety issue as well. How do you work with DOT post-accident? Because I also lost a couple of constituents in my district to cyclists as well. So after an accident, how do you work with DOT to improve that corridor? Is there anything, and I've been constantly calling on Dorchester to be looked at, and that's why I'm a very big proponent of supporting daylighting, because I have a senior center right by Dorchester and Marlboro, and the cars are speeding all the time. I have an elementary school right down the block, PS 139, and students are interacting in that space, but DOT said they were gonna do the study. They said there was nothing, but the time they decided to do the study was when the kids were out. That doesn't help.
Councilmember, just to your first question about the Ocean Parkway corridor, so we have it touching the 60, 61, and the 66 precincts.
And the 7-2? Because it overlaps with 7-2 and 6-6. That's my corridor.
Yeah, we have specifically 60, 61, and 66.
Because I'm doing a walkthrough there, I think, this week because of safety issues with the bike lane and the traffic. So I'm doing a walkthrough there with all of the agencies involved, and I think you guys are coming along as well.
Yes.
But it's not just where the accident happened, it's that whole strip of Ocean Parkway.
So this is one of the things that we do well. If there is some consideration about extending into the 7-2, you said? We can certainly do so. But again, we work very closely with the DOT, and considerations are put into the reason for extension. So we'll meet with you and with DOT and consider extending it to the 7-2.
So how do you address increase in bicycle fatalities? Are there any targeted enforcement or outreach strategies being utilized to, to address these incidents? And how many bike-related incidents you've had this year?
Okay, so just very quickly, with bikes, we don't see it. I talked about overall fatalities, 52 versus 79. Pedestrians is where we see our biggest problem right now.
Especially with our older adults, and what are we
With our
doing to
seniors.
protect our older adults?
Okay, so one of the things that we do when we see a spike, I spoke very quickly about the 109 precinct. Again, I know it's very short. That's some of the criticism that we get.
Did you show up after the problem?
Yeah, it's reactive, yeah. Ocean Parkway too it is. But, I don't think it's reactive. There's a mix of both. It is proactive because our officers are there along the corridors and we see the work that they do. And again, we focus not just on all summonses, but we know summonses that actually are the worst contributors to this types of incidents, failure to yield, speeders, that type of thing. So again, total fatalities, 52 versus 79. What we see that's troubling are the pedestrians, specifically senior pedestrians. Traditional bike fatalities, we have 1 versus 2. Motorized two-wheel scooter, that's kind of a universe of e-bikes, stand-up scooter, moped.
The e-bikes are all over the sidewalk, and still no enforcement. We need to do that. Are you reaching out to older adult centers also? As you
Yes,
said,
we
you're
are.
doing your education and your outreach. I think it should also start
Yeah.
in your older adult centers to make sure that the providers are also, educating the staffers. But older adults, like I have a mom who's older adult, she had me late. She should be able to feel safe to go outside and cross the street without having to get out the way on the sidewalk. I see bikes on the sidewalk. I see them violating all traffic rules. So our older adults need to be protected, because that's the call I get the most from older adults who are like, I weigh 130 pounds. And if I get hit by one of these bikes, it's over for me, council member. So how can I make my older adults feel safe? I think the outreach and the education is great, but are you reaching the people on the ground that really needs to hear that message?
Yeah, we actually do. So again, going back to the 109 precinct, a lot of good work again, but the criticism, like I said, is always, that it's reactive, but we do have the sessions in our senior centers. And of course, the pamphlets we also give out are also in different languages too,
So I hope to see you at one of my many seniors, older adult centers that I have in my district, making sure that we keep our older adults safe.
We'll absolutely do.
Just one thing. I just wanted to talk about how do we do it, right? It's not just the education. There has to be an enforcement component. There must be an enforcement component.
Absolutely.
So the number of summonses we have written up for e-bikes has gone up 208%. So We hear it. It's never enough. We know, right? And we're trying to do the things that need to be done to keep people safe. I can't imagine, my mother walking, she's 75, right, and getting hit
Mine
by
is 90.
hurt. So I can't imagine. So
So what happened to repeat offenders? Let's say you give somebody a ticket before and then you're ticketing that same person. What happens to repeat offenders?
I don't know what the escalation of the fee schedule and or the punishments are. I'd have to get back to you.
So I just also wanted to throw in there that we actually do seize. So seizures, I think, also very important too. So mopeds and scooters, again, year-to-date, we've seized 3,830 mopeds and scooters. Motorcycle seizures have been 1,329 for this year so far.
Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome, but along the same line of questioning, I'm wondering, has there been, so to speak, hotspots identified where we could probably provide more enforcement, specifically for the people? Because we do see all throughout our city bikes flying down the street, flying down the sidewalk. And of course, this is prior to the scaffolding law that we just passed, but, navigating in the scaffolding and things of that nature is very, very dangerous and difficult as well.
Yeah. So the hotspots are, we did some analysis, and that also ties into the hotspots, the corridors that we have citywide. We'll provide you with those, with the corridors as soon as the plan rolls out.
Thank you.
The quality of life teams, too, are data-driven, and they're targeting specific areas where we're seeing these things happen.
Thank you. Going to move to Councilmember Ressler.
Thank you very much, Chair Salam, and really grateful for you holding this hearing today on such an important topic. Firstly, congratulations to Chief Obey on her appointment. I guess it's a month now? Is that right? Okay. So
Yes.
You're getting up to speed. And I just want to also thank Chief O'Sullivan. When I've reached out, you've personally come to the district, come to hotspots and dangerous locations in my community with me, deployed traffic enforcement agents, been impressively responsive. And I would say, in general, I think we get the best responsiveness out of the Transportation Division than any unit within the NYPD. So I just want to thank you, and I could list a number of people on your leadership team who are similarly responsive to me and my community when we highlight issues and concerns. So I really do appreciate it. I continue, though, to be really concerned about rampant illegal parking in my community. If you were to walk around downtown Brooklyn today, you would find many hundreds of illegally parked cars on just about every single street. And when Chief Shell was here, the last time we had a hearing on this topic a couple years ago, he testified to that he'd done more in 4 months than anyone had in a very long time on this topic. He has multiple inspections going out every week, vacation days, and he's holding officers accountable for illegal parking, et cetera. We've seen no improvement while Chief Shell has been in his leadership positions, no additional attention to the illegal parking issues. And it's dangerous, right? We have cars that are parked on sidewalks, parked in intersections, parked in bike lanes, parked in bus lanes, and there's no accountability because the worst offenders in downtown Brooklyn are the men and women of the NYPD. And it's really, really frustrating. The illegal parking that we see around every single precinct in the city of New York, or 95% of precincts in the city of New York, is chronic, it's endemic, there's never any improvement, and it's incredibly disappointing. So just firstly, is this a priority of yours, Chief Obey, to actually finally rein in rampant illegal parking in downtown Brooklyn and other communities across the city and around NYPD police precincts?
Okay, so we're just going to address that piece by piece. Yes, I am committed to ensuring that we address these issues in your district. So I'm going to go as far as O'Sullivan has done with you. I come out for a visit. I'm actually visiting a number of council members, so I'll come out and take a look. But I also want to assure you that our traffic agents work really, really hard.
I know they do.
I spoke earlier about the type of work that they do. The summonses have not reduced in any way. Their numbers have reduced, but the commitment is absolutely there.
I really do appreciate the work of TAs. I think we should have more TAs on the street, and it's a hard job, not enough pay, and folks put themselves in dangerous positions in this work, and I'm grateful. But when there's a placard in the vehicle, when there's a vest in the vehicle, when there's anything at all in the dashboard of the vehicle, no summons gets issued.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, the corruption that's deeply, deeply troubling that I see no improvement on. And I really hope in your new post, because you've only been there 30 days, we can't criticize you on this one yet. We can criticize the department's actions over decades on this, but you have a fresh slate, that you and Chief O'Sullivan and the team will finally take this issue seriously.
I just want to assure you that we take it very seriously. There's a lot of work that we do. I don't know that you necessarily see this. So again, written just by our own TEAs, there's a lot of enforcement out there, and Josh will speak to a different unit that actually does some really great work. So with our TEAs in terms of placard abuse, in year-to-date 2025, so again, that's 1/1 through 4/20, they've written 14,878 summonses. I don't think that we sing enough, praises when it comes to the TEAs, but this is just phenomenal work that's done towards the placards themselves. And
I'd love to dig in on that data with you because I see zero progress in downtown Brooklyn, zero. And I'm not saying, I would love to celebrate you all taking this issue seriously. I'd love to celebrate that because when we say placard abuse, most of the people who use quote unquote, I'll put placards in air quotes, they're not using placards at all. They're putting a vest in the dashboard, right? And they still just park wherever the heck they want. So I will take you up on the offer to come out and take a look at this issue together. We would love it. I will recognize that Captain Maffei in the 8-4 is severely understaffed, and we've received commitment from the PC's office that new recruits will be heading to the 8-4 in the graduating class in May to help address this and other issues, and I'm grateful to that. I'm going to just shift gears because I could talk about my concerns around traffic violence and traffic enforcement for the rest of time, but I do want to raise this NYCLU report that I found to be enlightening and profoundly disturbing. And I will say that I'm disappointed, Mr. Levin, by your testimony today and your response to the questions, because when 90% of people getting stopped are black and Latino, 90% of people who are getting arrested for traffic stops are black and Latino, that's a problem. When 5% of people that are black who are getting stopped are getting arrested, 4% of Latino people are getting stopped are arrested, but under 1% of white people are arrested, that is an extreme disparity. When we've looked, you didn't like the data, you didn't accept the data that NYCLU used for driver demographics, but let's take a look at the health department, which I don't think you're going to dispute the methodology of the health department. They did a study in the last administration that found white people are far more likely to be driving in New York City relative to their percent of the whole of the city's demographic as a whole. Black and Latino people are less likely to be driving than the percent of New York City as a whole. They're more likely to be speeding. They're more likely to be driving and texting and doing illegal activities. And yet, they are far less likely to be stopped by the NYPD. So rather than you coming to this hearing and saying the NYCLU report is disturbing, there are concerning trends here, your response is basically that there's more officers in the 7-5 and therefore more black people are getting stopped, and that explains it. But the data doesn't back that up at all, right? I mean, if you want to go through precinct by precinct of where people are getting stopped, they're overwhelmingly in black and Latino precincts, but at factors that are far larger than the differentiation in the police force in those precincts. So why is the NYPD not taking an introspective look at this very concerning and troubling data that is clearly disproportionately stopping and arresting black and Latino drivers? Why is there no effort to say, hey, we should make sure that we're doing this the right way and doing this better? Why are you so certain that everything is right when the data is so deeply disturbing?
So I just don't think it's fair to say we're not doing anything or have any concerns, that our only concern is just like we have robust procedures in place, right? Not only do we have the trainings, implicit bias training, et cetera. Not only do we deploy specifically to where we see the crime happening, but as I explained earlier, there's mechanisms by which officers can be held accountable if this is true. I just think we have a difference of opinion on it. And let me just say one other thing. I'm not willing, I'm not trying to indict NYCLU. I had one specific concern with that.
I know, I did, and I gave you a different data point to show that that's a ridiculous argument. I mean, it's a ridiculous argument. You want to look at the health department found that 54% of white people in New York City were likely to have driven in the last 30 days, 40% of black people, and 32% of Latino people. Black and Latino people are much less likely to be in cars. They in aggregate represent 49% of the population, but are far less likely to be drivers on the road than that percent, yet are 62% of the stops and 90% of the people arrested. The data is deeply, deeply disturbing.
Can I comment on that?
Please.
I guess this is what I would say, and be more than happy to have ongoing conversations, your place, my place, wherever you want to do it, okay? But for the sake of this, there's just, if white people in the DOH study are committing more traffic violations, right, just quoting them, if you have less police officers there, it's not going to be interdicted the same way when you have more police officers in different areas.
But come on.
I don't think that's a cop-out. I think that's...
But let's go through this then. You're saying East New York, you gave an example where there were 55,000 people stopped last year. In the 9-4, which is a smaller precinct, it's not all apples to oranges, not every precinct has the same number of people, there were 13,000 people stopped last year. The 9-4 is Greenpoint and Williamsburg. I represent 88% of it, I mean, roughly. Are you trying to tell me that there are 4.5 times as many officers in the 7-5 as in the 9-4?
I actually don't know what the exact
But that's, my
staffing
point is that's ridiculous. There aren't 5 times as many officers in the 7-5 as the 9-4, and the argument that every officer just means the same amount of stops doesn't make sense. What we're seeing is racially disparate enforcement and racially disparate arrests, and I don't see why the department wouldn't come to this hearing in good faith and say there are trends in this NICLU data that are concerning and that require us to shift our enforcement approaches. It shouldn't be that we have to go to court and sue the police department to recognize illegal disparities and racial disparities in enforcement, like has happened on stop and frisk. It shouldn't be that. We should be working collaboratively together to say, hey, there are troubling signs here. We shouldn't be enforcing these issues only in Black and Latino communities. That's not right. That's not fair. That's not the way the police department is supposed to work. But that's what the data shows. And I don't hear any recognition of a deeply, deeply troubling report that came out last week.
So I hear what you were saying. All I'm going to say in response to that is, I feel like there are so many different data points and so many factors that need to be taken into consideration. I'm just not sure the 6-page NICLU report, which cites to the Census Bureau information about surveys of drivers, is enough for us to have a substantive conversation about it.
But take the surveys of drivers aside. The enforcement data, the disparate enforcement data is serious. And you could offer some context that makes it less of an extreme disparity as perhaps it appears, but the disparity persists. And I don't think that Commissioner Tisch's department wants to be operating a department where 90% of the people getting arrested for traffic stops are Black and Latino when they represent such a modest minority of the drivers on the road. That's not right. That's not fair. That's not the NYPD that she aspires to, or that I aspire to, or this council aspires to. And it's not what's happening every day. And so I'm disappointed that you've come to this hearing basically saying, this data point I disagree with, I'm not going to engage seriously in this report, despite there being really, really, really troubling trends that we are seeing, that we know about in our communities, that those of us, we see this, we talk to our constituents. The data here is a compelling citywide analysis of that I'm disappointed. I'm not hearing the recognition, the awareness, or the plan for how we're going to do better moving forward, and I hope the department takes this hearing to say that we do need to do better and we do need to shift our policies and approaches and tactics to make sure that we have less racially disparate enforcement than we do today.
I have another set of data for you, Lincoln. You'll like.
You go next.
We're gonna go into second round, but what's good about this conversation, I didn't want to stop it, but the reason why I allowed it to continue was because the best thing about the NYPD, best thing period, is the slogan that we are the best police department in the world. And I think to that particular end, getting there and making sure that the people feel it, the PD is showing it on all levels is really, really important. So I'm going to pass for a second round to Councilmember Caban.
Thank you. I'm going to build on what Councilmember Ressler was saying in terms of the department's responses, which were, needless to say, a bit lackluster. But talking about that disparity specifically, right? White people account for 21% of stops. but only, and this completely throws out your argument about what happens and where the officers are being sent and that determining what happens. The data that we have is for enforcement is from the NYPD's own data. And we know that white people account for 21% of stops, but only 5% of all searches, arrests, and use of force. We know that Black and Latino folks account for almost 90% of all searches, arrests, and uses of force, while being around 50% of the stops. So we're talking about what happens after the stop is made, and then now we're getting into the realm of sort of like propensity, which we shouldn't be doing, that can be the only explainer for this huge disparity, because again, post-stop, I quote, cops have discretion, right? And so I just want to take a second to outline that in another answer, you threw out terms like, well, the cops, they're there, there's DeBoer. The people up here, besides me, don't know what DeBoer means. So you throw that there, they continue with their questioning, and like, that's fine. Then I question you, and I say, after you make the stop, what is it that the officer's seeing in the car of a Black or brown man that is so wildly different to result in the search, the seizure, the arrest, the use of force, and you cannot articulate what you're being seen when that's the plain language of DeBoer. That's DeBoer. So you give it as an answer to somebody else as a term of art that nobody challenges you on. I ask you it in plain language, what are you seeing? And you can't articulate it, and that's a problem. So I want to know why white people account for 21% of stops, but only 5% of all searches, arrests, and use of force, and why Black and Latino folks account for 90% of searches, arrests, and use of force, and white people, while they're being 50% of the stops. This debunks your argument around demographics of drivers and resource allocation. I also want to know, because I should ask a couple questions, I guess. I also want to know why there has been an increase in use of force. So that same report showed that NYPD reported use of force in 53% more instances stemming from traffic stops than in 2023. I want to know how you explain that. And I also want to know, then, beyond that, why are Black and Latinx drivers treated so differently in relationship to use of force, knowing that approximately 87% of drivers subject to use of force cases were Black or Latina? 87%. How do you explain that?
So just to back up, what was the thing you said I was trying to evade answering?
I asked you very specifically, I said, the disparities around searches, right? So we know that Black drivers were searched at a rate roughly 10 times greater than the rate that white drivers were, and Latina drivers were searched at a rate roughly 6 times greater. And your answer to that was, well, it has to do where we're getting the reports and the crime is happening, and we've got more officers there. And I said, well, what are you seeing in these stops, post-stop? What is the officer observing that is rising to the level of these searches at such a disparity? And you could not articulate what that was. After testifying around DeBoer, you couldn't answer that question.
So let me address it for you now, because that's clearly not what I heard earlier, so we can make sure we're on the same page. As you know, in DeBoer, you have to be able to articulate certain factors that get you to a higher level of suspicion. It all depends on what the crime is. So for example, if it's a DWI, you're looking for messed up clothing, slurred speech, blurry, unfocused eyes, flushed face.
And how many of those, I'm aware of all, bloodshot red eyes, I am aware.
So this is my way of explaining to you that
putting
that is what
aside
officers
putting
are
aside the
looking
small
for.
percentage that are stops related to DWI, I'm talking about moving violations, things other than that, that are when a Black person gets stopped versus a white person, they are being searched 10 times more. What is it about their behavior that is different, that is rising to the level of a search consistently 10 times more than a white driver?
Well, since there's no way to review, at least right now in this moment, every single stop that is contemplated in this vehicle arrest report, I cannot answer
But we
that.
do know that cops have discretion.
If you keep using this like it's some weapon, let me make sure to clarify for you. Yes, of
It
course.
is a weapon for the police force to continue to disparately criminalize black and brown drivers. It is. It is a weapon. That's exactly what I'm saying.
So let me explain, right, that of course they have discretion. If you're talking to a human being and they're like, I'm trying to get to my daughter's recital, I didn't mean to go 8 miles an hour over the speed limit, I want an officer to be able to have a conversation with that person and choose
That's
education.
a really beautiful example, but it does not explain why black drivers are being searched 10 times more than white drivers. What is it? Are black drivers behind the seat acting more dangerously? Do all of those black drivers have weapons that are visible to the naked eye when the officer approaches? Or is it the officer's discretion in what they're describing or seeing as quote unquote furtive or erratic movement, right? Like you want to dig into DeBoer? We could dig into DeBoer.
Let's do it. Have you watched Body Worn? I know you have as a
Yes, I
public
have.
defender, right?
So, but explain to me why the disparity. Just
Have
why
you
the
ever
disparity?
watched a body-worn camera where you're like, ooh, I think I understand what the police officer's talking about in their paperwork?
Sometimes, sure.
So there is
Does
a
it account
meeting
for 10 times? Are you saying that
There's a
officers
meeting of the
feel that
minds
way
on
around
this
black
issue.
people more often than not? You're making my point for me.
What I'm saying is
You should
that
probably stick to answering the question of why is there a disparity between the use of force and the search and seizure of black and brown drivers versus white drivers? That's what I want the answer to.
So, Councilmember, what I'm saying is that any comment that explains a massive type of analysis in a quick 45-second explanation is not only inaccurate, I would have no faith in it, but also it's a disservice to you.
Do you
and
think
to
that it's a
counsel.
problem? Do you
I
think the
what
disparity is a problem?
I can't comment because I don't know the individual factors that are going into account in all of these individual stops. But as you yourself have said, you have seen body-worn camera.
Okay.
You understand what some of these things
Let me ask you this hypothetical. Let's say you're walking down, you're walking into a public park, and you see trash piled 20 feet high, and I asked you, hey, do you think that trash is a problem? And you go, I don't know, because I can't tell you about all the circumstances about how every single little piece of trash ended up getting piled there and then got piled and piled and piled, so I can't answer that. That's what you're saying right now. When I tell you that black and brown people are being beat up, searched, arrested 10 times more than white people, and you're sitting here and telling me you can't even acknowledge that that's a problem. I'm done. Thank you, Chair.
Well, this brings me to parking enforcement. Data from recent years on NYPD enforcement shows similar decreases in the issuance of parking summonses, while neighborhoods citywide have seen the increasing prevalence of illegally parked vehicles, including dangerous practices such as blocking access to fire hydrants, sidewalks, and crosswalks. In fiscal year 24, the NYPD issued over 8.2 million parking summonses and towed more than 41,000 vehicles, a significant decrease from fiscal year 21. When the department issued over 9.4 parking summonses and towed more than 89,000 vehicles, how does the NYPD account for decreasing rates of parking enforcement by the department? And have there been any changes in the staffing of traffic enforcement agencies or other department policies that has contributed to fewer parking summonses being issued?
Chair Salam, I just wanted to, I touched very briefly on doing more with less. I gave the stats earlier. Right now in 2025, 1337 agents, and they average about 26.9 per tour, versus, say, 2020, just going through 2020 to 25, 1835 agents with 18.4 summonses issued per tour. So the work is there. They're certainly doing a great job. And you talked about towing. Did you touch on towing very quickly? Because you had a number of questions, yeah? Okay. So year-end Year-end 2019, you're right, the high of 105,800 tows. We do see that dip in 2021 again because of the closure of the Manhattan Pound. In 2024, we had 443 tows. Again, the top 5 violations: no standing, 12,000 plus, no parking, non-commercial, 7,000 plus, fire hydrant. The numbers are definitely there. But I want to assure the council that despite the closure of the Manhattan toll, we still tow vehicles from Manhattan, north of 59 to the Bronx, south of 59th Street to Brooklyn. So the work is there.
So the NYPD has previously cited to the loss of tow pound capacity in Manhattan as the reason for decreasing rates of vehicle towing in recent years. Can the department speak to the need for more space to tow illegally parked vehicles? And what steps has the NYPD taken to obtain a new pound location?
Many, 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 many steps. We will be the first to agree that it is important for us to have this pound capacity, straight up. So, just by way a little bit of a background, the state budget passed in 2021, the 2020-2021 budget, the Hudson River Park Act, which was amended, which required us to cease our occupancy of the tow lot that we had there. That was over 200,000 square feet. It's a lot of space. And so since then, our capital project scope development was undertaken between January of 19 and March of 2020 in anticipation of having to vacate the pier. So we proactively started looking for locations. But as I explained earlier, it's an island. There's only so much real estate. It's one of the densest urban environments in the world. Any council member in Manhattan, you want to identify a space in your district, right, for us to put a tow, we'd be more than happy to do a site evaluation. But we've explored automated. We've explored surface options to replace all of that. Some of the costs didn't work out, had a cost between $334 million, $500 million. But I think the important thing is we are continually and actively engaged with DCAS to explore locations in Manhattan which could meet our operational need, including evaluation of other city sites that hopefully we could maybe repurpose or use. We're also repurposing other department facilities. So although they can't really be used for a tow, because I think 90% of all vehicles are picked up from the tow lot, about 90%. So there's a lot of back and forth and the trucks are wide. We're even looking at other department facilities where we could put long-term storage cars that are connected to like an ongoing criminal case that don't have to be moved in and out constantly. So we're 100% aware of this. Nobody wants more tow space than we do. It's a very tough circumstance that we're in though. So that's all the work that we've done, and we continue to do work to try to isolate and locate a new tow facility.
How does the department determine when a vehicle should be towed versus given a summons or immobilized?
Well, vehicles that are clearly in violation, parking violations and bus stops, double parkers, that type of thing. So when there's a parking violation, that those are the things that we consider.
How often does limited tow pound space prevent officers from towing illegally parked vehicles or vehicles without proper licenses or registration?
I think it's tough to answer a negative like that. I don't know. There could be many factors why a car doesn't get towed. There's human error, theoretically. A traffic enforcement agent misentered in a license plate or typed in something wrong. I don't know. What I can say is we're talking about 1,200 approximate capacity with our tow lots, and 90% are picked up, so there's a large amount of cars that are coming in, coming out nonstop. I don't know. I'm not quite sure we can answer that.
I'm going to pass it to Councilmember Holden for a second round.
Thank you, Chair, for the second round. Inspector Sullivan, I think we spoke about this before, but I've had a lot of, through your help, a lot of vehicles towed with improper registration. Many of them are trucks. They have regular plates, and no commercial plates, but they're improperly registered, we got them ticketed, we got them towed. Next day, the truck is back on the street. When they pick it up at the tow pound, when the person who owns the vehicle picks it up, he can't drive it off with the improper registration, can he?
No, technically, if the car is not registered, doesn't have insurance, he has to hire a legitimate tow truck.
A tow truck, but you give it back to him, that person, with a tow truck, and then the next day it's back on the street. Is it possible to require them to show the proper registration before they pick it up? Or they just have to show that they own the vehicle?
Due to our constraints, if they come there with a licensed tow truck to tow it out, we have to release it.
You have to give it to them. So we have this vicious cycle, because I've been, it's like this, this truck it's a big truck, and it has suburban plates, regular plates, and it's back on the street. Now it's been several years. So it's like this vicious cycle. We should have some kind of way to do it. By the way, another problem that I have on 311, when I use the 311 app, is that you could see by driving around the neighborhood where many vehicles, on every block, there's 3 or 4 of them, have a film over the license plate, and it blurs out the numbers, especially at night when a light is shined on it. And yet I can't get those summons. Officers don't know that there's a film, but you can see it when you shine your vehicle light, especially at night. You can actually see it. You can see it in the daytime too. How many vehicles with that film are we just letting go by because there's no tickets? I just have like an answer on my 301 that the officers took action to correct it, but it doesn't tell me what they did.
Okay, so the new technology of this film, it just came out, law enforcement, security industries, they're in the process of trying to figure out how to, get that ticket violation. But when it comes to covered plates, mismatched plates, stuff like that, so far this year, we've already issued 65,000 summonses for these type of offenses. Also, we have our traffic agents out there. We have our new 311 pilot program where our agents are responding to these traffic complaints, and it's freeing up the officers to respond to 911 calls and quality of life. And we have our traffic agent enforcement addressing these conditions. So hopefully this year, this will be the year you see a big issue with enforcement against these covered plates and this, microfilm.
Right, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Can I just add one thing? I also think the ability to write to the VIN number, the resolution, would be extremely, extremely helpful.
Yeah,
because a plate, you can take off and move around. You can put a dead plate on when you're trying to come across the bridge. But you can't change, you can change a VIN, but you have to be a mechanic, whatever, right? It's much harder to change the VIN.
Exactly, right, thank you.
I want to move to vehicle chases.
I'll be nice. I just want to ask about data.
I'll pass it to you.
Oh, thank you.
All right. I just want to ask some data questions. In the fourth quarter of 2024, the NYPD issued 21,501 criminal court summons. Of these criminal court summonses, how many were for traffic infractions? Quarter 4.
Sorry, Councilman, we don't have that. I don't have that on me.
So what I would be asking for, and I'm assuming that you may not have the others then, from the fourth quarter, if you could report back to this committee how many traffic infractions there were, a breakdown of race, how many were for VTL misdemeanors, a breakdown of those by race, how many were for VTL felonies, a breakdown of those for race. And yeah, can you get back to the council with that?
Absolutely, will do.
Thank you. Do you have any data on I'm assuming you don't have the same data as it refers to desk appearance tickets. Is that correct? Okay, so we'd be asking for, in the fourth quarter, how many arrests were made for those traffic infractions, but how many received a desk appearance ticket, and a breakdown of those by race. How many were detained and arraigned in a criminal court? Those broken down by race, and the same for VTL misdemeanors, VTL felonies. And then I also want to ask, apart from the Highway Division and regular patrol officers, which other commands, units, or teams engage in traffic enforcement? So specifically, are neighborhood safety teams doing any traffic enforcement? Are community response teams? Are the public safety teams? Are they all expected to engage in traffic enforcement activity?
Yes, as a police officer, if you see a violation being committed, right? You see something being committed, so.
So how does their use of VTL enforcement relate to the broader purpose and mandates of those specialized teams, right? Like, they have very specific purposes. The NSTs, the CRTs, the PSTs, they're focusing on very specific initiatives, correct?
I'm not 100% sure what each individual purview is, but I do know that quality of life is involved.
But you do acknowledge that these are specialty teams meant to target certain things, and maybe your colleagues can answer that.
I wouldn't go as far as saying that. You said target certain things?
Well, so like, for example, the neighborhood safety team, right? That is meant, the department says, to really hone in and tackle guns, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So, and community response team, that's a specialized team. Public safety team, that's a special. They aren't part of traffic enforcement. They aren't part of sort of the broader department. They're specialized, curated teams. So my question was, are they engaging in traffic enforcement? And if they are, how does their use of VTL enforcement relate to their broader purposes and mandates of those specialized teams?
So they're still on the radio. So if they're in a neighborhood and something comes over about a robbery in progress, and they're given a description of a car, and they're given a description of the occupants who may be inside the car, and they see that car go zipping past them, they're going to investigate that to see if it's related at all.
Okay. And so as it relates to that, do you have statistics on 2024 vehicle stops disaggregated by the special teams? So for example, for each team, how many vehicle stops resulted in the search of the vehicle? For each team, how many vehicle stops resulted in a misdemeanor arrest? For each team, how many vehicle stops resulted in a felony arrest? For each team, how many vehicle stops resulted in the retrieval of an illegal firearm? For each team, how many vehicle stops resulted in the retrieval of illegal substances or drugs?
We can certainly look into that and follow up.
Okay, so yeah, my request is that that data be given to the chair of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. So regarding vehicle chases, the NYPD faced significant criticism for the department due to increasing occurrence of vehicle chases that often result in pursuits that put the pedestrian and other drivers at risk. In response to public concern, the NYPD policies on vehicle chases have recently changed. Can you explain those changes?
Yes, so I'm so sorry, just to confirm, you're talking about the vehicle pursuit policy, is that what you said?
Yes.
So the vehicle pursuit policy, in short, was changed for example, a few ways. The first is that violation and nonviolent misdemeanor cannot be the basis for a pursuit, okay? Number two, officers have the discretion to call off a pursuit if they don't think it is safe, or the roads are too slick, or there's too much traffic, or there's kids out. They are allowed to call that off without any concerns or consequences to them. And also, there is a safety board review meeting after any type of incident that looks into and reviews what brought that to that moment. So reviews the propriety of the encounter.
What follow-up investigations or enforcement occurs in circumstances when the NYPD decides to discontinue a vehicle pursuit? And how does the department assess risks versus reward when initiating or continuing a pursuit?
Yeah, I think the idea is to provide clear, unambiguous parameters for when to initiate, continue, and terminate the pursuit. It also requires the documentation of all of that. I think it comes down to a multitude of factors. So I mentioned some of them earlier. The speeds, how dense the environment is. If it's like a public school, near a public school, that's going to be different than the Bell Parkway at 3 a.m. The weather, the lighting, reports they may have about the car, et cetera. These things, you can't plug this information into a computer and have it spit out time to pursue, right? Human beings are making these individualized determinations in the heat of the moment, given a totality of the circumstances, with the best judgment of what their training is and versus what their experience is.
want to go down to ghost cars and ghost car enforcement. How are officers trained to distinguish between a legitimate temporary plate and a fraudulent one during a traffic stop or while conducting parking enforcement?
So our officers are well trained in making the distinction between the plates that you mentioned, and this goes as far back as when we first started to see the proliferation of ghost vehicles. I will say that the work continues, and I just want to highlight the multi-agency ghost car operations that we have citywide. So in 2024, there were 61 initiatives conducted on various bridges and tunnels citywide, resulting in 740 arrests, 34,000 plus summonses issued, 3,450 vehicles, and upwards of $48 million in tolls and tax warrants. This year, year-to-date 2025, we've had 17 initiatives so far, resulting in 267 arrests, 9144 summonses, 940 vehicles seized, and $5+ million in tolls and tax warrants, including administrative fees.
What obstacles exist for NYPD in its efforts to enforce laws requiring vehicles to have proper license plates and registrations?
The obstacles.
I'm sorry, could you give both of us the question one more time?
Sure. What obstacles exist for NYPD in its efforts to enforce laws requiring vehicles to have proper license plates and registrations?
Well, I think there's a bunch of different factors, even some of the stuff like films, somebody obscuring a plate, somebody defacing a plate. And I think if we were able to write to the VIN number, that's going to remove a lot of these concerns. You know, 17060 of the penal law is knowingly covering, altering, or defacing a VIN number. And so, I mean, yes, that means if you take your mail and you throw it in the top of the vehicle, right, and it covers up the VIN, technically, you have not committed that. You knowingly did it, but you didn't mean to cover the VIN, right? But people are exploiting that sometimes. And they know that you have to be able to prove intent. So they'll just throw the mail up there, and now we can't read the VIN number at all. So there's a lot of different things that we see that go into account for this. But as you know, we're leveraging technology. We're working with all of our partners, with the MTA and the Port Authority, to interdict these vehicles. We've recovered over, I think, $48 million in unpaid tolls or fines last year alone from ghost plates and people driving into the city. It's a large process. It takes a lot of different organizations to get it to where it needs to be, but we're doing that.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you all. Have a good day.
I'll now open a hearing for public testimony, and I want to remind the members of the public that this is a government proceeding and that decorum shall be observed at all times. As such, members of the public shall remain silent at all times. The witness table is reserved for people who wish to testify. No video recording or photography is allowed from the witness table. Further, members of the public may not present audio or video recordings as testimony, but they may submit transcripts of such recordings to the Sergeant at Arms for inclusion in the hearing record. If you wish to speak at today's hearing, please fill out an appearance card with the Sergeant at Arms and wait to be recognized. When recognized, you will have 2 minutes. 2 minutes to speak on today's hearing topic: NYPD parking and traffic enforcement and related legislation. If you have a written statement or additional written testimony you wish to submit for the record, please provide a copy of that testimony to the Sergeant at Arms. You may also email written testimony to testimony@council.nyc.gov within 72 hours of the close of this hearing. Audio and video recordings will not be accepted. For in-person panelists, please come up to the table once your name has been called. I'd now like to call our first in-person panel.
Oh, my staff reached out about the Senate, right?
Yeah.
Great.
We're going to start with the two individuals on Zoom and try to move past that, and then we will kind of turn to the folks here. The first person on Zoom is Eric McClure, followed by Andre Carroll. And so if you're available, that'd be great. And then after those two individuals speak, we will take the rest of the folks here. So Eric McClure.
Starting time.
Okay, we could come back to you as well. Let's just start off with the panel in person. We'll hear from Amber Adler, Darnell Seeley McCory, and Dahlia Goldenberg.
And you may begin in whichever order you like.
Yeah, whoever.
Yeah, just press the, yeah.
Yeah, I have it.
Start.
All right, thanks. Hi, I'm Amber Adler. I'm a car crash survivor, also a member of Families for Safe Streets. I'm also a resident of Southern Brooklyn, and I live just a few blocks away from where the Ocean Parkway crash happened just a few weeks ago and killed Natasha Sada and her two daughters and left her son fighting for his life. I knew people on both sides of that. The driver, Ellie, should not have been driving. Many times she's called Miriam, but it's Ellie to most people that know her. But she was driving. And like many super speeders, she didn't have a valid license. She didn't care that she didn't have a valid license, and she still got behind the wheel of her car. Now, had the Stop Super Speeders bill, which is proposed right now, Bill A in the Assembly, A2299, and in the Senate, State Senate, S4045, had it been passed last session, it wouldn't have made her not get in her car, but she would have gotten a car and there would have been a device that would have stopped her from going more than 5 miles per hour over the speed limit. Now, this is a huge deal. This is a huge deal. Sorry, it hurts because for obvious reasons. That car couldn't have hit that high speed, and the lives that day could have possibly been saved. They might not have been deaths, they might have been recoveries, and really, they might have been neither, because if she wasn't going that fast, her car wouldn't have been able to flip in that capacity it did, slide down the street and crush a mother just crossing her kids across Ocean Parkway. Some vehicles, as you know, are getting hundreds of tickets every year, and it's just a matter of time before another super speeder kills. There's vehicles with so many violations. I think factually 16 speeding violations are twice as likely to be involved in a car crash that leads to death. Similar bills to what I was mentioning before were enacted in the District of Columbia and also Virginia and passed in the state legislature in Georgia and in Washington. And on an even more personal note, last year on Ocean Parkway, my eldest son, who was about to be bar mitzvah, was almost hit by a car as we crossed Ocean Parkway to go to his yeshiva. That was a Sunday morning when people say it's not as busy. Nobody cared. Apparently, the driver did not care. There were no traffic agents because yeshivas are schools, but they don't have traffic agents on Sundays, even though they're all active. And I was with him. So, he went just a little bit in front of me, and it didn't matter because in that location, like many other locations, there's not much more you can do to the streets. That is an evacuation route, actually. There's really not a lot you can do to the streets there. And once again, making it even more important, these speed limiter devices in cases like this. Now,
We,
thank you very much. I want to thank the council for even hearing this, and I really urge you to support anything whatsoever, not just this, but all things that can help prevent.
absolutely, and thank you for your testimony. If you have the testimony that you were reading, I would love to have that submitted as
I
well.
have it. I might have slid off of it a few times because I sort of get choked up in a little in the moment with things.
Absolutely. You want.
Also, I want to thank you. I wish that the NYPD officials that had testified had stuck around. And I know you probably know this, but here in the council, we do have a resolution supporting that state bill, those state bills.
Yes, 100%, and it's so important. And if I had to beg everyone individually and tell them all the things that I've seen, not just even with my son, but other things on Ocean Parkway. Just last week, I was walking past the memorial that's been set up for Natasha, and just an avenue down, there were like shards of cars, like from a fresh crash that happened on the corner.
Yeah, clearly we have to do something as
And
a city.
actually, one more thing I will note, very important. I know a report came out a week or two now, and it showed all the top drivers, the top speeders in the whole city. And the top is from that area. The top super speeder is from that area. And their intersection, there's an intersection on Ocean Parkway and Ocean Court, which is also a few avenues down, which on that one intersection, they have 70 tickets at that one spot. And it's right outside of Yeshiva.
Wow. Well, thank you for your testimony.
Good afternoon. My name is Dahlia Goldenberg. I'm the Associate Director of Families for Safe Streets. And thank you to the Chair for holding this important hearing and for introducing Resolution 854, calling on New York State to pass A 2299 S 4045, the Stop Super Speeders Bill, as we like to call it. Families for Safe Streets is an organization that brings together over 700 members, all of whom have either lost a loved one in a traffic crash or themselves been injured in a traffic crash. At Families for Safe Streets, we work to advance proven safety measures like speed limiters, and we're proud to testify for the Chair's resolution in support of our Stop Super Speeders bill. The data shows that a majority of drivers, after they receive 1 or 2 speeding tickets, they don't ever receive another one. They change their behavior. But a small minority of speeders, what we call super speeders, tickets don't deter them. Just 1.5% of drivers across New York State. Fines don't deter them. Even suspended licenses don't deter them, as you heard in the case that Amber spoke of in South Brooklyn. A driver with a suspended license and who was a super speeder with multiple speeding violations. These super speeders need speed limiters. Transportation Alternatives recently released a report that Amber also mentioned on the top 10 super speeders in New York City, and found that some vehicles are getting hundreds of tickets a year without being forced to change their behavior. In fact, the number one worst super speeder in New York City got a shocking 563 school zone speeding tickets in 2024 alone, and owes thousands of dollars in unpaid tickets. And that's in South Brooklyn. Our number 2 worst super speeder is along the west side of Manhattan. And we can't continue to wait. Just 1.5% of drivers, this small percentage that would be considered super speeders, in New York State, they cause over 21% of pedestrian deaths, and we have an opportunity to slow these cars down. If I can just put in one more line, speed limiters are a proven solution. They're already considered a best practice by the city's own DCAS, and it's time to bring them to New York City. This same legislation has been passed in Georgia and Virginia and Washington, D.C., and it's time for New York State to lead. So we thank, again, the council for taking on this issue, and we urge you to pass the resolution immediately before the state session ends in June. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your testimony.
Hello, my name is Darnell Silly McCrory, and I am a member of Families for Safe Streets. I'm here to speak in support of Chair Salam's resolution to stop super speeders. Families for Safe Streets is an organization made up of people like me, and all of us have either lost a loved one or ourselves been injured in a traffic crash. We know that when our streets and our intersections are deadly, we are the ones who are paying the price. Bear with me. Last year, my 13-year-old daughter, Niall McCrory, was hit and killed by an SUV driver at the intersection of West 110th Street and Manhattan Avenue on October 24th. My beautiful, intelligent daughter, Niall, had a passion for dancing, learning, and inspired many other friends and teenagers via TikTok with her tough, self-taught, choreographed dance routines. She had aspiring dreams of becoming a doctor or a lawyer. I never thought her mother and I would be burying our daughter so soon. We prayed that she would recover and her intracranial pressure would decrease, but sadly, she was pronounced deceased November 1st, 2024. 2024. The day we lost Niall was the most difficult of our lives. Today, we can protect our families from suffering like this. There's a bill up in Albany that will require speed limiters in the cars of the worst repeat offenders. Some vehicles are racking up hundreds of speeding tickets a year, and if we don't do something, one of these drivers is going to kill. Just like a super speeder killed a mother and her 2 children in Brooklyn last month, speed limiters are the answer. They'll physically slow down super speeders to prevent crashes and save lives. We are not saying punish the driver. We are saying here's a way to help you stop your reckless behavior because you can take lives. We can send a message today to our legislators up in Albany that New York City supports this bill, and thank you for your opportunity to share testimony here today. Thank you for the time. I'm just a little bit under mental and emotional distress. I just want to also add that I was previously incarcerated, and I just came home February 8th of 2024. I never thought in a million years that I would be burying my daughter the same year that I came home from spending 4 years behind bars talking to my daughter every day on the phone. So I'm just asking to please consider this bill. It is serious. Her mom cannot be a part of any of this. She does not have the strength to do nothing that I'm doing. So I'm doing this for my family, and I'm doing this for others. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. And you know what is super impactful for me, along with the fact that you just came home, is that your daughter died right in the most western part of my district.
Yes.
And remembering that day, remembering your daughter, I wonder if, I don't think anything has been done to that area, that intersection.
No.
And I'm wondering if you also, in terms of what we're trying to push forward in terms of the super speeder law, what else can be done? Because we have a lot of intersections like that.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of places where these are considered, I would say, sensitive spaces where children are frequently moving around and drivers may not be as cognizant of the dangerous situation. And just from your perspective, is there anything more that we can do?
I would like to see TAs in that area, but listening to what's going on earlier, I just hope that it's effective if it is applied to that area. There's just no limiters. It's a very busy traffic area. There's traffic coming from all ways, and there's no limiters. There's nothing to help desensitize the speed of these drivers. So, this speed limiter, this device, I really hope that it's passed, and I wish it was passed before. Maybe my daughter would still be alive. It would have helped slow down that vehicle that day. And this is my reason for publicly advocating for others, not just my daughter. I don't want people moving on in the future to witness to a lot of pain. It's a lot of pain. I have to live with. It's an accident. This is an accident. It's just something that I'm never gonna be over. You know, my heart is forever broken, but it's still. Thank you.
Thank you again for your testimony. Thank you.
If you'd like, I could also respond to that question. If it's helpful.
Yes, please do.
Just that we also advocate for improvements to the street design, to the intersections. We have the universal daylighting bill right now, which improves safety at intersections. We'd also be happy to meet with your office to discuss safety improvements to that particular street. And we're also working to with community boards to pass resolutions calling on Sammy's Law to be implemented in more districts on more streets. The city now has permission from Albany because of our work last year to reduce the speed limit to 20 miles per hour on most city streets, and that's something that can also be implemented further.
I actually have a question, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think some of the testimony that was received here today, I think it might have been Councilmember Joseph who was saying, it may not have been her, but specifically about the street design. Now, years ago, prior to, you know, me being known in an infamous way, I used to ride my skateboard from Schomburg Plaza up to the Hill Cathedral Parkway. That was just, you know, I had friends that lived up there. And I do know that part of the way that the streets now are being designed, the fact that it's becoming more constrictive as opposed to widened, you know, I'm not sure if there ever has been a study, and if it hasn't, I think it might be a great exercise to look at before and after, because the biggest problem that we're trying to fix, especially when it comes to people speeding, there's a whole host of other dynamics. It might be, as was described by the PD, you know, somebody trying to rush to a recital or go here or go, like there's so many different things, but when you restrict the streets to, you know, there's confusion coming from,
There's a lot of confusion.
you know, Columbus Avenue down to Manhattan Avenue, especially because the buses now are on the same side as cars, and then there's that single lane that goes left, but it doesn't really look like that's a lane that goes left. But you know, I'm not sure if that's something that has been looked at as it relates to, especially with Sammy's Law, with regards to the super speeders, all of the things that we are trying to shore up, you know.
That intersection, I just wanted to camelback. It definitely needs infrastructure, different. I don't know how to say it, but it's wide. It's wide, but still so narrow.
Yeah.
It's really easy for you to get hit there. It's very easy for you to, if you're not paying attention, and you know people like to wear the AirPods, and it wasn't just my daughter that week. There were 2 others, same week. So it something has to be done, and like she said, we're running out of time. And we're really trying to push this bill.
Yeah, the U.S. DOT uses something called the Safe System approach that we also support. It's highly backed by data. It has been researched across the country and also in places like London and across the EU. It includes safer vehicles, which is things like speed limiters to make the vehicle itself safer, safer speeds, so reducing the speed limit. That has been the #1 thing that has reduced fatalities on streets in London when they reduced their speed limits to 20, and then safer roads. And so there are a number of things such as narrowing the lanes, making changes at the intersections that cause vehicles to slow down when all of those other factors are a part of it. And all of these approaches work together as a safe system approach, reducing the traffic violence. So that's why we work across all of these different areas: the roads, the vehicles themselves, and the speed limits.
Gotcha.
I want to add one thing here that I find really important to note, especially as you're saying, you know, it's a wide road, and I know Ocean Parkway by me is very wide. The thing with the speed limiters, you know, it's driver by driver, car by car. And that's effective in a lot of areas where you can't change street design. Like Ocean Parkway is an evacuation route, and I was working for Safe Streets even when Chaim Deutsch was in office, and I went out there with Tish James and him and all these other people, and, you know, Vision Zero came out at one point, and they have service roads, you know, next to it, and you know, they changed the arrows, like where you could turn. Like you can only turn here, you can only turn there, you can only do this, you can only do that, and that helped to an extent, but there were still then people speeding in the service lanes, people not stopping in the service lanes. That's why I'm just gonna underline like that, like places where you sort of can only change so much because of like it being an evacuation route. Like devices in the car become even more vital.
Right. Yeah. Because it after my daughter was struck, the vehicle did not stop. The vehicle kept going. It did stop. It didn't stop automatically, like right then and there. It stopped. So it happened at 110th, between 110th and 109th. It stopped a little past 109th. Why? Speeding.
Wow.
So thank you again, and thank you for this resolution, and we urge you to keep working with us on all of these approaches, and right now on our priority, which is getting the Stop Super Speeders bill passed in Albany.
Well, thank you all for your testimony. It definitely was appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And if you also have any of the data, if the testimony hasn't been fully read by you, definitely submit it to be included today.
We will.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Next, we'll turn to Zoom. Eric McClure, followed by Andre D. Carroll. I will unmute you just now. 1 second.
Starting time.
Thank you, Chair Salam. Councilmembers Cabana, if you're still there, I can't see the full dais, but I apologize for not being ready. I was juggling 2 meetings and was not able to unmute quickly enough. But my name is Eric McClure. I'm the Executive Director of Streets PAC. We strongly support Resolution 854 and the corresponding state legislation it supports, which would require the installation of intelligent speed assistance devices in the vehicles of super speeders, individuals who repeatedly receive speed and red light camera violations and/or accumulate 11 license points over an 18-month period. Super speeders are responsible for an inordinate number of crashes that cause death or serious injury. A New York City Department of Transportation study covering 5 years of data through 2022 found that drivers who had racked up 20 or more speed camera violations in 1 year were 5 times more likely to be involved in a crash resulting in death or serious injuries. Recent horrific crashes underscore this data. The vehicle whose driver hit and killed Amanda Cervedio in Astoria last October had accumulated 80 speeding tickets in just the previous 2 years. And Miriam Urimi, who was driving at more than twice the speed limit and failed to stop for a red light when she struck and killed Natasha Sada and her 2 young daughters on Ocean Parkway last month, had received more than 24 camera violations over the previous 18 months. It's also important to keep in mind that speed cameras are only triggered when someone exceeds the posted speed limit by more than 10 miles per hour, and that many more tickets would be issued if not for defaced or illegally covered license plates. The beauty of intelligent speed assistance technology is that it doesn't restrict a person's ability to drive. While we have little sympathy for individuals who claim they need to be able to drive for work or other reasons but have such little regard for others that they repeatedly break traffic laws, ISA allows operators to continue driving while restricting their ability to cause mayhem by controlling their speed. The use of such devices in the UK reduced fatal crashes by more than a third, and New York City's pilot effort in fleet vehicles resulted in near universal compliance with speed limits, along with a 36% drop in hard braking events considered strong evidence of unsafe and aggressive driving. The District of Columbia and the state
Time's
of Virginia
expired.
enacted laws that require ISA devices, and I'm almost done. ISA devices in the cars of super speeders, and similar bills have passed the legislatures in both Washington and Georgia. With the support of the City Council, there's a good chance we can pass this legislation in Albany this session. We strongly urge a yes vote on Resolution 854. And I will submit written testimony that addresses the other resolution and legislation considered today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next, we'll hear from Andre D. Carroll.
Starting time.
Andre, you are muted. Unmute yourself.
He's good now.
Here we go. It was not allowing me to unmute. Thank you. First, I want to give my condolences to the gentleman who spoke last in person, to him and his family, for the loss of his daughter. Then I would like to also thank for New York City Council. I want to thank Chairman Celine for holding this hearing, and I also want to thank Council Member Caban for her remarks today. I am State Representative in Pennsylvania, Andre D. Carroll. I just want to mention that public safety is a priority for all of us, but community and police relations must also be a priority. Philadelphia City Council member a few years ago introduced driving equality, which was introduced by Isaiah Thomas, which City Council passed. This law was introduced to help reduce the targeting of drivers of color. I do want to share a personal story that while I was a Lyft driver during my college years, I had been pulled over numerous of times. A few times included air freshener hanging from my rearview mirror and a single headlight being out as the reasoning. I also have been pulled over for sitting too long at a gas station on the phone. While none of these interactions or instances, impeded on public safety, my interactions with police was not always positive. Oftentimes I felt targeted, and because of those reasons for pulling me over, gave me room to be subject to a car search, with every single time no contraband being found. Research when the law in Philadelphia was conducted, it showed that out of 300,000 traffic stops, that only 0.03% of the searches led to any kind of contraband. While I now may be a state representative, I understand that everyone doesn't have that privilege, and that everyone deserves to be treated with dignity and not be subjected to targeted traffic stops. I want to thank City Council for allowing me the space today, and I also want to thank ask that you consider these considerations as you continue to promote traffic safety.
Thank you.
May I ask a question? Great, thank you. Hi, Senator. First, I want to thank you for being here. I have, from afar, I'm an admirer of the work that you're doing out there in Pennsylvania, and obviously I'm a huge fan of Councilmember Isaiah Thomas, who really championed the driving equality plan. And so you talked about your personal experiences, which obviously bear out the data you then see in your city, and there are similarities here in terms of the disproportionate number of stops, searches, seizures, arrests. And can you talk a little bit about like when the law went into effect and sort of some of the effects you've seen from removing police from certain parts of traffic enforcement?
Yeah, absolutely. So the law was enacted and passed. It was passed in September 2022, and it became law in March of 2023. So it's been a few years now. The thing that I'll share is that in my personal interactions with the police is that, you know, I've had a tail light or I've had a headlight that's been out since this law has been in effect, and it has taken down the anxiety that you will get pulled over because that exists. Also, yeah, I just do want to mention just some of the things that it does change as violations that can be enforced on a traffic stop. So late registration. So, you know, before this law, if your registration was expired a day, they could just pull you over for that. But the car has been registered to somebody's name, but maybe the person hasn't had a chance to get the car registered. So that's another one of the things that I thought, you know, was helpful to give, you know, working class folks an opportunity to correct some things. Also, another thing that I'll mention is if the inspection or emission sticker on the front of the car is expired, you know, it gives them some time to be able to get that course corrected as well. So those are just a few of the things that has removed police from being able to use that as a reason to pull folks over, which also too have, in my opinion, saved the city money, because now we don't have police officers conducting traffic stops for things that don't yield in return things that make our communities any safer.
Right, and my understanding is that before the the legislation was introduced and then obviously subsequently passed, there were long-term studies on sort of which traffic infractions to include, include in the bill and not include, and those were rooted in safety statistics. So like which infractions led to more dangerous traffic outcomes, for example. So took the ones that didn't have an impact on safety and then just removed the ability of the police to be able to make the stop for that thing, understanding that what we're seeing is that after the stop, there's this real disparity between how black and brown drivers are being treated.
Absolutely, Councilwoman. There was a lengthy amount of time that there was a conversation. To my understanding, there was at least a year that included the Philadelphia Public Defenders Association, Philadelphia Police Department, and also Councilman Isaiah Thomas's team to talk through this bill. So yes, there was a lot of things that was taken out of the bill and not considered in the final passage. And one of the biggest misconceptions in Philadelphia is that tinted windows was included in this bill. And that is something that, one could argue would impede on public safety because it may impair the driver from being able to see through the window. So that is not included in this bill, but the 8 violations that are included in the bill were things that were agreed upon for all 3 folks sitting at the table that would not impede on public safety.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Super thoughtful. I love having folks from other cities' jurisdictions come in and tell us how they're doing their thing. So thank you.
Thank you so much. This is my first time sitting through a New York City Council hearing, and I
It gets
really
spicy
did enjoy it.
sometimes.
Yes, I mean, I understand. I have, we have the same kind of tensions in the State House. So I do want to thank you for your time and thank you for including me.
No, thank you.
No problem.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next, we'll be hearing from people in the audience here. We'll be hearing from Christopher Leon Johnson, Y. Jennings, and Andrew. You may come up and speak, all 3 of you at the same time.
Ready? Hello, my name is Christopher Leon Johnson. I'm here to support your bill, resolution intro 854, and I'll explain why. But first off, we have to say rest in peace to Rebecca, Diana, and Dana Sada, who passed away in Enid Vertical District. I want to know where was Enid Vertical? Where she's at? Why she's not here? Why she's not saying anything about this? Is she what is she a speeder herself? Is this the reason why she's not for this bill? She's not supporting because she's a speeder herself in that mini car? Let's keep it 100%. Where are you? Why are you not coming? Why not supporting these people with this stuff? Why not supporting Family State Streets? I understand is that they lean with Democrats, but safety in the streets is not Democrat or Republican. This is human rights. It's all about human rights. Let's keep that 100%. Now, I want to show my support with this bill, this resolution, because today I just came from 50th Street with a political candidate. I can't be political. I can't say that person's name, but run for public advocate. And we was there showing our respects to the people that passed away in construction accidents, and same time that I feel that construction workers and deliveristas, they're not safe in the streets because there's a lot of people that speed in the city of New York, especially in Manhattan, and nothing ever happens. This resolution, I hope this gets passed in the state Senate with Andrew Gondaris, that it will protect these deliveristas, Worker Justice Project. It will protect the construction workers under the CLC labor unions. It will protect these people. It will protect them. I believe that these bills, resolutions, will protect these deliveristas and construction workers. They matter mostly too, more than just not to say more, but the same as people that just regular people that just get hit by cars and stuff like that. But it will protect. It will protect the labor. It will protect labor. But before I get off here, I'm gonna say, Enid Vertical, where are you? Why are you not here? Why are you not supporting this bill? What's wrong? I mean, that's my honest opinion. Ina, if you don't care about people, you need to be voted out. That's why you're getting challenged by Ari Kagan and the other girl on the other side. But if you don't care about street safety, Ari Kagan need to get you out of the door. So that's all I got to say. Ari Kagan, hope you do the right thing. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's it. That's it. All right. Cool.
Thank you. You may go ahead. Hello.
Next,
Ms. Jennings, you may go ahead.
Can you hear me?
yes.
I spoke in February about the stalking issue. The cars driving by, I'm on the sidewalk, bicycles coming at me. I leave here, people march into me. Start date of me being stalked is May 11, 2006. 2007, I speak to a private eye. The private eye said he couldn't help me, but the phone would blow up. Do you know that all your phones have something to do with mine? You need to speak to Matt Frazier. What's his name, Matt Frazier? And Jessica Tisch. Those letters that I tried to show you, that I never got to see you last November. 5 months after my heart attack, that now I'm having a pain and I'm not doing well. Any health issues that I have now will be I'm going to put it towards encouraged by the wonderful people that I reached out to. Because I reached out to all the wonderful elected officials, like I should, in 2006. It is now 19 years of people I don't know assaulting me on the property, after me, harassing me. I had a heart attack here. What did they do from 11 p.m. to 3 a.m.? The wonderful staff march around as I cried a moan in pain. I think I showed my diary to many of you here. And I have to sit still as people creep around and harass me. I'm out of patience. So I asked you, wonderful Yusuf, if we could meet and have a little talk about something very urgent, because the 5,000 plus letters to the White House now have major names in it and go at every camera I pass, because I fear for my life and safety. I don't know these people. And you saw me sit back there very calmly, and then I had not well. I write everything down. You see my diary, and the diary doesn't cover anything. The underline of this was drugs, and El Chapo thing, has a lot to do with city council. The man who came in with $3 billion, who's worth 100-something billion, I had a client help him get it. So I asked if we could meet, very urgent. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have bail. One day someone's gonna come at me, and I'm gonna get a little agitated. I don't understand it.
Thank you for your testimony.
You may begin.
Testing, okay. Hello there, thank you for your time. I'm not here to threaten people getting in office, out of office. That's not me. I came to ask for assistance. I've been asking for assistance for years. I hand out flyers, police, FBI, terrorist organization blocking me from getting a job. This is a court case in New York City where law enforcement run around, make people homeless, get them fired from their job. For years, I've been asking for an investigation. I was assaulted in Chicago, assaulted in New York. They were refusing police reports. So there's something that they're hiding. And every time somebody breaks into my car, they refuse to show up, or when they do show up, they refuse to issue a police report, which again, it shows that they're hiding something. So I keep asking for an investigation. I keep asking for help. They're blocking me from getting a job. They're blocking me from getting a place to live, blocking me from dating style of my family, interfering with my religion. These people are criminals. So I'm asking for assistance so I could get some help. If you have any suggestions how to get these criminals to stop attacking me, I'd be more than happy to write it down so I could apply it, so I could get a job, get a place to live, start my new family, have no interference in my religion.
I have a question. Have you reached out to the Neighborhood Defender Services to seek counsel?
No.
That may be like a good first step to assist, because when you talk about needing support in what you're going through, oftentimes it's legal recourses that you have to go through first in order to find ways forward.
National
Neighborhood Defender Service.
I think I've been to them already, because I've been to legal aid. I've been to a couple. So far, like, nobody assisted me. So, like, I know I went to legal aid, and something in Manhattan with the Lawyers Guild, or whatever it was. So far, like, nobody is assisting me in getting law enforcement to stop attacking me, which obviously it has to be done because they are refusing to investigate my claims.
Gotcha. Well, hopefully they'll be able to assist you from now.
Okay, so Neighborhood
Defender Service.
Defender Service, okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony. We have now heard from everyone who has signed up to testify. If we have inadvertently missed anyone who would like to testify in person, please visit the Sergeant at Arms table and complete a witness slip now. If we inadvertently missed anyone who would like to testify virtually, please use the raise hand function in Zoom, and a member of our staff will call you in the order of hands raised. Seeing none, I would like to note again that written testimony which will be reviewed in full by committee staff may be submitted up to the record up to 72 hours after the close of this hearing by emailing testimony@council.nyc.gov. Thank you. That concludes today's business.